Yeah. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Roger Hansen's
Go ahead.
weekly. Hello, we have on the line of us. I think everybody should start introducing yourself to the stream. I'll start. My name is Tan. I help Roger Hansen together with Mark Edworthy with this stream once in a while. so, so yeah. All right. So over to Mark.
Okay,
And then after you introduce yourself, you can point to the next person.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mark. Mark Edworthy. Yeah, I do quite a few streams recently, and I mainly produce content for on minds.com. So minds.com/Medworthy. Roger.
All right. Now, before we go on, we got Raphael in here too.
Hey guys.
Hey, how you doing? You want to tell everybody?
Yeah. I am. My name is Raphael, and I'm a co-host on the Vixen's Vault with Nancy, who's going to be introducing herself next. And I'm also a private investigator, executive protection agent, blah blah blah, and former Marine and federal agent. I don't know what else you want me to say.
That's about as good as
good enough. It's scary enough.
No, nothing scary about it, man.
Okay. And of course, I'm Roger Hansen. You can find me everywhere. So, with that being said, man, I guess I could bring up, or I can continue the talking points that we were having last week. We were discussing meta, which is, I guess you would call it the mother, or the what would that be called, Tan?
The fat chick in the room.
Meta Inc.
Meta Inc.
The parent company of Facebook and
WhatsApp and Instagram. It's the parent company of WhatsApp, Facebook, and Instagram.
Right.
Yeah.
And various other companies as well.
They also produce holographic gaming devices.
Well,
yep.
Before we get to that, let's have Nancy introduce herself, because
yes.
Did you forget me?
We did.
Or did you just not see me because I kind of snuck in the back door? Because I'm good at that. I'm just going to say that. I'm really good at that.
We were hearing that you were having a conversation.
Yeah, she slips it in knuckle deep.
Oh, okay. Don't get me going, Rafi. Don't get me going. Right, guys, I am Nancy Planeta, otherwise known as the Wiccan Vixen. I own and host the Vixen's Vault, which has been on the air since 2007. I do a mixture of conspiracy theory type shows. I do lean into the paranormal because I think it all kind of works together. Definitely look into. I'm considered an expert in occult knowledge. As well as what we would see as ancient technology today, but it's actually a lot more modern in some ways than what we currently have, or what they tell us we currently have. Professionally, I actually do cybersecurity for a living, and I actually do cyber investigation.
Right. I was really glad you mentioned that, because I was hoping you didn't forget the fact that you are into like the technical stuff too, because you got a background in that.
Nice.
I do enjoy it. And it kind of works with, it's funny, like I said, because I see patterns, which works all the way across the field when it comes to what I do. You need to be able to see patterns in cybersecurity. You need to be able to definitely see patterns in cyber investigation. And when you're researching and working in other areas, such as conspiracies and things as such, you have to be able to see patterns. You have to be able to see them. If you don't see them, you're going to miss 3/4 of the information.
Right.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Just to point out,
he's gone. You gotta.
And he's frozen. Oh, he looks like the Wolfman.
Yes,
wow!
I was just going to say that me, you, and Tan are all in the industry, sort of. Tan being a developer, being mainly network deployments and support, technical support, and obviously you being a penetration tester.
I'm a CEH, a certified ethical hacker, and a CISP, which is a certified industry professional, as well as a developer. So yeah,
Yes.
Yep.
Just try to penetrate me too, and I told her I only.
He doesn't do penetration, man. I don't
roll
get
that
it.
way.
It's like, dude,
I do all the penetrating.
I mean, come on. I showed my ass. You can show me yours. Come on.
Come on now. Oh, no. This is tech talk. This is tech.
That is very technical. Penetration is very technical.
Pen testing, yes.
You know,
Nancy, do you have a Minds? You have a Minds channel?
Person that's not kind of.
No, I do not. I'm more familiar with Minds through Mark and Roger, who, by the way, they delight me every week because they join my show, The Vixen's Vault, and they're much appreciated on that show because they're incredible and they're entertaining and they're brilliant. So I love having intelligent people, even when we're way I know with Mark, it's my show, watching Mark's features as we're talking about different subjects, because he doesn't lean into a lot of the conspiratorial thought processes. He's much more, I think, technical thinking in that way. But I watch his face, and it's like the whole show could be based on Mark's facial features as we're talking, because they change and adapt each time. He was doing something. I think he was drinking or something, but he was doing what I was calling the Fabio flip. Every time Roger said something that annoyed him, he was literally flipping his hair like, it's the Fabio flip.
He should never play polo. He should never play poker.
Poker. He would suck at poker, man.
Poker. Yeah.
I'd clean him out in poker. But
when he gets all fired up and everything. And his idea of being fired up isn't like us, you know what I mean? But when he gets really uproared, he starts getting all intellectual and shit.
Well, but you know what? He holds his ground. Yeah, actually, all my co-hosts hold their ground, which is why I love every single one of you guys, because we are all very strongly opinionated people for different reasons. And I think we all respect each other for our opinions. So it's like that is a combination that is very rare, especially in radio. And I hope to hold on to it forever, honestly, because it's always a pleasure doing the show. Even when we literally talk in circles for 2 hours, it's still a heck of a lot of fun. It's entertaining, and it's always some kind of intelligence to the conversation, which it's like I always tell Raphael, I think one of the biggest problems with kind of being a little bit more technical minded, especially as a female, you don't have a lot of friends, because when to be social, people bore the snot out of you. Like literally, my entertainment for a night at the bar is usually looking at how many heads I want to crush before I leave the bar, because I'm bored out of my mind. It's hard. Yeah, Mark's laughing because he knows what I'm talking about. It really is hard to find your own tribe. It's difficult. So I think I found my tribe with these guys.
Okay. Cool. Now, this is the reason why we were trying to tell Tan that he needs to hang out with us more, because I keep trying to tell Mark likes to pretend like he's got friends and shit, but like we're actually getting a bunch of people on here who are very, very smart when it comes to technical aspects and things of that nature, so it's and believe it or not, this show is doing a heck of a lot better each season that we've done. We're actually on our third season now, and it's like people are actually coming in and checking us out because of the stuff we're putting out, and I find that interesting, considering it's tech talk, you know what I mean? I could have never imagined that. But,
and you were talking about Meta. Ooh, well, Meta's like Microsoft to me. Meta's
Exactly. And last episode before Meta, before we started talking about Meta, we were talking about Alphabet Inc. And we have,
Oh boy, yeah.
and the reason why I think that that's important is because everybody's used to saying the term YouTube or Google,
Yep.
or Facebook.
They just got nailed with a massive antitrust, just absolutely nailed, and they should have been nailed. I mean, it was rightfully so. And like I said, and actually, Microsoft this past week did another oopsie update where people are getting the blue screen to death again, and it's like, what did I say, Mark? Last time this happened, what did I say? They're doing this on purpose. No, is this nobody? And put massive updates into Windows 11 and Windows 10, and these updates are taking down critical pieces of the computer and the components. The software, because there's such an issue with these updates. It's every time now.
I saw a report just yesterday in relation to Ubuntu Chronicles.
Yep.
Limited, which I think is version 25.4, which they accidentally removed the desktop environment if you do an upgrade on that. It is in relation to Microsoft, especially in relation to their cloud services, things like cryptographic keys being installed on
kernels. Oh Lord, I couldn't with that whole CloudStrike thing. I had a very, very, very hard time maintaining a straight face when they would talk about that, and I'm sure Tran is over there laughing too because
that's me.
Yeah.
Literally,
I'm laughing inside.
Yeah, they just pretty much anybody who knows anything is looking at that reasoning going, are they stupid?
That's right.
What are they trying? Are they trying to look really stupid? Or is it they just assume that we're all so stupid we're just going to nod our heads and go along with it? Because most of us are millennial generation, so we are or post millennial, no pre-millennial. So we are people who've been on computers since we were children, putting us on computers in the 1980s. So yeah, we know a lot about these systems. So when you give an excuse like that, and then to have to put through a fix that breaks it even more, it's just like
the problem with Microsoft is because there's such a monopoly. When the average user buys a computer, what do they get? Obviously, Microsoft Windows. So people are. The average end user is sort of trained to associate computers with Microsoft Windows. Microsoft synonym for a PC, IBM compatible PC.
Well, it's interesting because I've kind of looked at computers, especially, I guess, from the late 1990s to current day and age. I know they teach kids in schools the basics. They are, but they're not teaching them the absolute basics. And to me, it's a responsibility. It's a privilege to have a computer. It's not a right. It's a privilege, because these things are capable of mass destruction if you don't use them correctly or you use them for ill intent. It's no better or worse than driving a car. You can really create some mass destruction. And case in point, Rafi will tell you, I've had several clients that have had pretty much a lot of money wiped out because they got scammed. Mm-hmm. And, then they got infiltrated by the scammers. And I mean, literally, they're like a lot of money gone. And there's no way to really retrieve it because you have federal law, then you have international law, and you have state law, you have local law, you have all these different laws, and nothing really protects the user. And the banks bail quickly as the amounts go higher. results disappearing. They're not going to help you.
Actually,
So-
sorry, I was just going to
No,
say it's
go.
interesting that you talk about people not taught the extreme basics. One of my first jobs after leaving college, which actually became a tech support for a local college, and one of the roles I was doing was vocational support, and a lot of it was related to evening classes, teaching secretaries how to use Microsoft Word or how to, so it's just interesting.
But I'm
when you say,
talking like Mark 101s of even keeping yourself safe. Like you have people working jobs where they're dealing with critical information for clients or whatever, and they're going into to work with their cell phones that are really well protected, and they're taking these cell phones into critical areas where this information is stored and kept. And to a hacker, that's paradise. Literally, that's just like, woo, I'm just gonna hop on that phone. Woo, I hit the jackpot. I even had a friend who got hacked staying at a hotel. And I said to her, she couldn't figure out what happened. She goes, oh my God, somebody's ordering all these Ubers. What's going on? And I'm like, are you on the hotel Wi-Fi? Well, yeah. I'm like, get off the hotel Wi-Fi. she could. It didn't hit. She was like, why? Like, because that's like going on a Starbucks Wi-Fi. No. I was like, you might as well just paint yourself red and say, hit me. I said, there are literally people who sit in parking lots in cars with scanners looking for idiots like you on hotel Wi-Fi. True story. But they don't teach you that. They don't teach people, hey, put extra security on your phone if you're taking it into work, or don't take it into the office space where your computer is. They don't teach people this. I had almost a client over Thanksgiving 2 years ago who basically I got a call where they had been hit by ransomware. And this was like an auto parts store. And rather than call in somebody, they called their IT department. And so their IT department sprang into action, grabbed a backup server from Ohio, drove it all the way to Florida, and installed it without doing anything about the ransomware. They shut off the computers. They didn't shut off the servers. And so what happened? What happened? Your backup server is now toast. So because they didn't know and I said, this was your IT people that did this? Oh, God. Because, again, even IT should know better than to do something like that when you've been hit with ransomware. It's kind of a basic 101. Try Wireshark. Did they try to backtrack it? Come on. Let's think, people. There are things that you do, and the guy's like, well, can I hire you? Nope. And I'm working another very, very big contract that requires my attention. And this is going to take time to unnoodle what you guys have done now. That's not something I can come in and, 2 hours later, I'm walking out saying, have a great day. No, that's like a 4 or 5 day unnoodle. And actually, go ahead.
I think last week we were talking about, what was it, the CKT car?
CDK. It was
CK. And we were talking about things like disaster recovery sort of plans and having multiple backups and archives and those things, and which that company failed to do.
Well, you can have as many backups as you want. If you're not clearing the problem, you're just repeating the steps. You're repeating the fall over the cliff every time. And that was my point with that they didn't clear the ransomware problem from their, it was coming in through the router. It's like, what were you thinking? Why would you put that server up? Now you're done. You're toast because everything's gone. And now we still have to wrestle and figure out where this is coming from. So that's why I said Wireshark, backtrack it. I mean, this is what I mean. There's no standard really set in play unless you're specializing in cybersecurity or that, where you this is a no-brainer for us. But for everybody else in the industry, there's no standard as to what do I do? What should be your first course of action? What do employees do? Because 99% of the time, actually, it's an employee mess up that causes it to begin with. Yeah. I mean, like with that, the packets that were coming in, the person never put up the firewall that night. So it was an employee mess up that caused this from beginning to end. I mean, human error is the biggest problem in cybersecurity.
Now, what Mark was referring to was with the CDK global incident that happened here with dealerships.
Really, one of the first things any company should think about is disaster recovery plan, and even before they even install a machine, deploy a machine.
Well, see, this is kind of something that I brought up too, and for me personally, I think like with DMS, if you use that with freaking like graphics tools and stuff, it would have been actually better, because like you were talking about being able to detect patterns, you know. They've had that kind of technology out since well into the 70s, I believe, you know.
Yep.
You're going to make documents.
And it, to me, it's not like a far reach to actually implement that stuff. And there's this one woman who came out with a blog where she was explaining the CDK thing, and she said what happened is they freaking went private, and they became a private equity firm. And with private equity firms, the first thing they do is they go into these corporations and they gut it out.
Yep.
Okay. And security is at the lowest part of the totem pole when it comes to putting security in, and that's what happened. You know. And I went and I did more research on it, and I found out that not only did they have a hack happen, but the company that actually bought them out actually had 2 or 3 different attacks that occurred to them, and one of them even involved the Canadian military.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a lot bigger deal, and you never saw any of that or heard any of that when it came to the media. You know, they only just.
Yeah, but you don't hear about the attacks here. Like, you don't. I mean, I get updates from CISA and all over that show me what's going on, but I can tell you our military has taken quite a few hits, and they got in. The Nuclear Commission took a hit, and they got in. I mean, and I think I told you guys, I was saying it on the show at one point, to me as a pen tester, when I'm watching all these different reports that are coming in and I'm reading all the reports and what happened and what's on the danger, what's on the alert list, it looks like a giant pen test. It really did. It looks like somebody is testing our government and military systems to see exactly where the flaws are, exactly what can be infiltrated and when. That's what it looks like to me as a pattern. That's why I keep saying we're going to get hacked. Somebody is going to take down our infrastructure. It's going to happen because there's been way too much pen testing going on. Way too much. And I do agree that I think we have a decent cyber command here. But I'll also tell you, over the last 4 years, that cyber command was a freaking joke. It was an absolute joke. And I don't know if that was intentionally, and I take nothing away from the professionals who are working there, because I think everybody has got to be top of their field to do what they do. But something went horribly wrong with Cyber Command in the United States over the last 4 years. And I would have to, as an intelligent person, say this is on purpose. They're leaving us wide open for something. Why? Because I am not nearly to that level, and I'm looking at it going, somebody's pen testing the crap out of us. Why? Why? Because there's only one reason you would do that. So yeah, we've got big problems here, Roger. It's not just Canada, and it's the banking systems too. I mean, Rafi and I had an experience recently with our credit union where somehow our cards got nailed. Literally, we had somebody trying to charge on our business cards that had never been used. Like, these have never been in public. They haven't been anywhere they could be scanned. Literally, these card numbers somehow got into the hands of somebody who was trying to use them. And within 3 days, his account got nailed, his business account, then my business account got nailed. And they're at the same bank.
Yeah.
And so I said to the girl on the phone, somebody either infiltrated you, because we opened these business accounts within days of each other. So it's the same batch. So either you got infiltrated or somebody's selling your information to the dark web. The card information is being sold. You've got a choice, because this is not a coincidence. Sorry, doesn't happen like that. So it's like I said, the banking systems are in trouble. They won't take responsibility. It's their job. It is their job to protect and secure our information to the umpteenth degree.
Yeah.
And when they do not, it is their job to compensate, because they have failed. We pay them. You pay money to get your money in a bank that they use. Literally, they use your money in your accounts all the time. So if they can't keep that information safe, it's like the healthcare industry. It's another. It's on them, because they have the money to be able to pay experts to keep this really safe, locked down.
It's another. There comes AI, artificial intelligence, into the healthcare system. And if security isn't all that great, freaking, I do see that, because I believe we had a conversation about AI. They were wanting to implement AI,
And with AI is the base problem with AI. AI is only good.
They want to
It's good
implement
information that is input. If you have a bad player inputting information into AI, bad.
Right.
There's no controls. There's no safety. No stealing developmental AI things from Google. ChatGPT stored all the developmental things up that, hey, every year develop, and then all the rights to that got taken.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter in putting the political divide. Every country where you think from a period.
Standardization, but saying that this is why companies such as Google, DeepMind Limited, DeepMind Technologies Limited is because a lot of medical data is being transferred to them as being the sort of provided for them. So arguably, you could argue that standardization is coming from companies like Google or Alphabet.
And Google doesn't take political stances? And DeepMinds doesn't have a political stance or a political connection? Of course they do.
Yeah.
Of course they do. This is the problem.
Well, like
There's
relate to who's the regular.
It's going to come to that point. This is one thing that the EU, and there's EEA.
Slow down.
And he's stuck.
He's getting excited.
Oh, there's another good pose. There he is.
With the EU EEA General Data Protection Regulations. And to be fair to California, this is one area that they are actually doing some good jobs in with the California Consumer Protection Act.
Yes and no, because I can tell you California, I have clients in California. I can tell you California is an absolute dog-eat-dog show when it comes to illegal technology being deployed to steal people's information. I mean, literally, they're putting their tech on police technology. In other words, they're able to scan into people's homes and everything else. You need to look it up, or Mark, because literally LA, those areas of California are a nightmare when it comes to safety with technology. It's an absolute nightmare. There are way too many bad players out there trying to get your information. And I'm not just talking scammers. I'm talking gangs. I mean, cartels. you don't understand that when they're collecting this information. China's out there. I'm sure Russia's out there. I mean, and I don't even know if those are our enemies. I can tell you they're collecting information. Israel has been collecting information on us without any stops in play for decades now, because they're considered protected for some reason or another. But they are and they're top of their field.
But the ownership on the data is related to the companies that are hosting the data. So have any criminal prosecution, or you might not have any events that you will see prosecution against the companies that are providing the service.
If those companies are Chinese or North Korean or out of the reach of the California government, with almost it's the plan. They are. Do you know that is actually a living in Nigeria? They actually they start at the age of 11, 12 years old. They train them to be romancers, and they pay them very well. It is a $1 trillion industry in Nigeria to scam the crap out of everybody else. And there's nothing we can do.
They call them African catfish because
they're the Yahoo boys. It's the Yahoo boys. Yep. I mean, literally, $1 trillion industry, dude. And all they're doing is talking to people online and convincing them to send them their money. Hey, I'm Keanu Reeves. Hey, I'm, I'm whoever I feel like I am today. And you love me, and I love you. Let me pay attention to you. Now give me all your money. And then they use their accounts as mule accounts. Yep. I mean, it's allowed. That's the worst part. Facebook allows that. X allows it. They do not take these accounts down when they're pointed out, because these accounts are registered as business accounts.
It's not just that. It's not just that. I mean, the global government has been trying to push us into universal digital identity for decades.
Yep.
How best to do it? We talked repeatedly about the Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. You let these guys cut loose, they start stealing people's money left and right, and what happens? The people that got duped all of a sudden are clamoring for exactly what they want to roll out: universal digital identity. Be able to, you won't be able to log on the internet without one, and you won't be able to duplicate it. Once you're tagged,
that's why the Bitcoin black market is massive. It's because it's very, very hard.
I'm going to argue against that. I'm going to counter your argument.
Go for it.
We're going to do our age-old debate.
We do this all the time, guys. Just FYI to you guys, Rafi and I argue about Bitcoin pretty much on a daily basis, because I see it as a CIA operation, and he sees it as the cure.
Well, no, I see. So basically, one of the things that I've found is that the CIA actually paid to put out information saying that having small blocks. Come on, are you there? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Cut out. Sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah. So basically, the argument was that they put out how am I going to call it? They put out chaff. What I'm going to call it chaff, saying that basically you keep it smaller blocks to keep it more secure, or whatever excuse it was. I remember finding that article somewhere, and I don't remember where. I wish I could find it right now. But basically, that was how they derailed the how do you call it? The adoption, the widespread adoption of Bitcoin, because it really was meant to be digital money. It wasn't meant to be digital gold, as they're trying to paint it now. It was actually meant to be a replacement for a lot of our currency problems. Anyway, long story short, my point is that the reason why they went after Ripple and they couldn't go after Bitcoin the way I was talking about is because Ripple has a central point of weakness, which is the Ripple Foundation. They're the ones that created it. They're the ones that control it. They're the ones that program it. And therein lies the weakness. As long as there's some place that they can get their judicial claws on, as opposed to just code. That's what Bitcoin, Litecoin is. They're just code. And if it's not something that they can just change the code overnight and turn it tyrannical, because the people that actually run the mining rigs have to adopt it. They have to adopt it, otherwise you have a hard fork. Anybody else here into Bitcoin?
I only look at it from a regulatory sort of point of view. I'm not interested in.
You're not interested in the technology behind it?
I've got a good understanding of the technology.
Okay. So my point being is that Nancy says that it's CIA controlled, and it may be at this point. Depends on how many. Trump keeps saying that we're going to be the Bitcoin capital of the world. So what does that mean? He's gonna launch enough mining rigs to control 51% of the hash rate. That's the only way to do it. The other question then becomes, as far as the privacy goes, there is no privacy with Bitcoin. Blockchain tech and ledger. And, now granted, they did implement an update because, again, you piss the community off enough, they'll throw up roadblocks. So they basically did a coin jar. So basically they take all the money transfers, they pull it together, and then they send it out to different addresses than the one it was intended to. You understand what I'm saying? So basically supposed to go to Mark actually went to Roger, and then Roger's nickel went to me to pay, to basically make sure everybody gets paid their right amounts. Do you understand what I'm saying? They did that, but there's no reason whatsoever why they cannot, in one update, implement the same technology as ZeroCoin, which is completely private. And that's what people don't understand. It's not, there's no regulation or a body that can dictate how it behaves and how it's implemented. And therein lies the freedom behind Bitcoin. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that technically speaking, both in the US and within Europe, majority of Europe, cryptocurrencies are still not considered as a financial instrument in themselves.
Yes.
It only becomes a financial instrument once to fiat. Then obviously the fiat is a financial instrument, but cryptocurrencies themselves are not financial instruments.
Well, gold bullion is not considered a financial instrument either, but we all know it's the better form of it's been the definition of money for 6,000 years. Bitcoin is not currency, except maybe in El Salvador and a few other countries that have legalized it as such. And actually, there are some states that do accept it as legal tender here in the United States.
What I found interesting, El Salvador and what's going on right now. It's funny because we talked about this earlier, but I'm just going to throw this out there. One of the reasons I think the camaraderie that states is because I think he does intend to pick up system financially that is kind of modeled after what El Salvador did, because obviously what El Salvador did proved to be successful. It pulled that country out of pretty much desperate times, and has given them some financial background. Now, the problem I have, my problems with Bitcoin. Is that, number one, he who mines the Bitcoin pretty much controls the Bitcoin. And, we all know that in the very beginning. In fact, it's still being said, Three Gorges Dam, there's apparently, from what I've heard, there's a massive mining facility for Bitcoin under Three Gorges Dam. It's powered by Three Gorges Dam, which Bitcoin requires a tremendous amount of energy to mine. Tremendous. It was one of the sale points for XRP, is that XRP does not require near the amount of energy to mine that Bitcoin does. And one of the things that we found really disturbing when supposedly China clamped down on Bitcoin was that the Three Gorges Dam was still going, which meant that they may have said they were clamping down on Bitcoin, but they were still mining. But Iran started mining. And I know this because I actually have a friend in Iran. And he was telling us how the power in Iran was being rationed away from the cities and away from the areas where people were habitating, and going to these Bitcoin mining facilities within Iran. So I find that very interesting that these countries are trying to turn to Bitcoin. Why? Because again, Bitcoin is yes, while Rafi says, it's an open ledger, but you're identified only by a digitary code on that ledger. You're not identified by name. I mean, that's why it's a black market. It's literally, that's like people, human trafficking. So it was literally because it was an easy cover. XRP, I know he doesn't like XRP because he considers XRP centralized. XRP is said to have, not sure if that's true or not. I've looked at it. It seems to be decentralized, but again, I never take anything for granted. The fact is but XRP was smart about how they did things because they're not just looking at a tender. XRP is looking at the ability to transactionally change internationally in a matter of nanoseconds. So in other words, it can be used by any bank. That's why Japan adopted it. That's why Russia adopted it 3 years ago. People don't realize that. Russia actually adopted XRP a couple of years back. So, I mean, it's a tender that it's being very subtly introduced, and its price is 100% being kept down. And that is very obvious because there's a lot of countries that are using XRP for lots of transactions right now. Santa XRP for transactions. I mean, if you actually look at the companies using it, it's ridiculous. And yet XRP is only worth $2.61. Whereas Bitcoin isn't nearly as transactionally used as XRP is. So why is the amount being kept down? Why is the SEC after them?
You mean in the United States?
Correct.
Is XRP, I know the BRICS countries are using this, but are they using that specific block?
Using both, and that's the interesting part about it. It's being adopted across the board. If you actually look at XRP and look at how much it's monumentally increasing, it's insane. But apparently, one of the things I was reading about it, which I was like, that's disturbing, private banks are using XRP big time in the background, and they're putting their own value to XRP as they're doing transactional things contractually. So in other words, that's why once in a while you'll see the ledger for XRP. All of a sudden it'll show one Bitcoin worth like $80,300, whereas it was just at $2.41. That's actually a glitch. And what's happening is you're seeing the transactional value of the XRP within a contract at a bank. In other words, it's got multifaceted values, which it shouldn't be that way. And that's what I said. No, that's not how that works. So is that why they're trying to suppress the price of it? Because they're actually using it for other things? That's not how that works. Is that why the SEC is trying to keep them down so far? Because they can't do anything about that.
The problem, as I see it, and with the case that you're arguing, is that you're assuming that the value of Ripple is based on how am I going to say this? On the
market value.
The market value, but the stuff that it's going to represent. It's basically, you got to understand, it's just a payment rail. It has no real inherent value other than the fact that it's going to
it's got the same inherent value as Bitcoin does.
Well, that it's going to carry. No, it's like Ethereum. Ethereum has its own value in of itself. If it's used if it's just a payment rail that gets burned up every time somebody does a transaction, well, then it has no real value.
You've got both within Ripple, though. That's what I'm saying. You have to look at the way the Ripple strategy is set up. And like I said, it's the inherent value. That's with any crypto. No crypto actually has a value. Bitcoin has no value. There is no asset that backs Bitcoin.
No,
absolutely
it's
none.
The fact that it's being used as a currency that gives it value.
So true with Ripple.
Let me point something out too, though, before you guys do it, because the thing too is you got to take into consideration is CME came out with freaking Solana first.
Yep.
And Solana has been really, really successful, even though a lot of people have of it, and that scares the heck out of them. Okay, because of coming out of. I believe it's coming out of not down. It's down in South America, El Salvador maybe, or Costa Rica maybe. But these people are terrified of that for some reason, and I've gotten a lot of feedback from this one guy that I talked to called Within the Vacuum, and me and him used to do around when met me, and he was always so spiteful to me because I freaking invest in Solano than do freaking a lot of the other ones. Like, or that is because you draw interest off of it too.
Solano is actually out of San Francisco. Solana Labs, founded in San Francisco.
Now, I was under the impression that it came from Central America.
Not according to this. It's literally Solana's architecture. Its POH mechanism allows for high-speed transactions and scalability. It was Anatoly Yakovenko. Oh boy, Yakovenko.
Oh,
That's a Russian name. In late 2017, building on his research, distributed system timekeeping mechanism called Proof of History. Solana Labs, founded in San Francisco, was established to develop and launch the blockchain platform, which officially went live in March of 2020.
Yeah, and that right there caused a big reaction with a lot of these people, and now they're coming out with freaking it's gonna cause a ripple effect, like you said. It really is, because and they've been solid. Solana has been, they fall up and down every once in a while. They got volatility like every other coin does, but they've been solid, you know.
Well, I think, like I said, I'm waiting for what I call a breakout. Because right now, the way I track almost every single cryptocurrency, it goes by the stock market. When you watch the stock market, you can pretty much track exactly what crypto is going to do. And that's a scary thing to me, because that means, it's like I said, it's all still based off the dollar or whatever currency is being used in that country. It's all still based off basically paper money and transactions. It's not even Bitcoin. It's all powered by money. So if the money crashes, how are they even going to? How does that work? Because then there's nothing to put in to buy the Bitcoin.
That's based on boom and bust cycles.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what market you look at anyway. We could be talking about sugar or coal. Same principle. Yeah.
That's why I wondered if, like, something like Algorand, the contractual coins, if that would be something more, because that is, contractual coins are based off the, so in other words, wheat, whatever contract there it's written on is what values. So I was looking in that direction at one point, because I was like, because for all intents and purposes, we're all intelligent people here, and I think we can all pretty much agree that our economies are in the crapper. Every single one of them. We're in big trouble. The world banks are in big trouble, and they're not going to be able to make up dollar amounts and float this fantasy, because unfortunately the people have figured the fantasy out and realized that they're not included in that fantasy ride. It's just the people having a fantasy.
I'm not so sure, because as far as the average person's concerned, a dollar's worth, let's say, half a loaf of bread. There's this go into this fiction, be a part of this fiction. They, like I said, they believe that a dollar is, or a pound is worth a loaf of bread.
But what happens when there's too many? Okay, so because what's happened is we've created too much. So in other words, starting in like 2006, when they started with quantitative easing and the omnibus and all these big American fix-it packages, that they then sent all that money overseas. And when there's too much dollar, what does that have? Inflation, where that loaf of bread that used to cost you 50 cents is now costing you $5. Why? Because there's too many dollars and they got to get rid of them. That's why.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody similar, and I was reading by Mark Republic and what happened up to the lead up to World War II.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're in trouble, and I think there are some really, really strong signs of that trouble. And I don't like the fact that they lied to us day after day after day. Oh, look at the market. Look at how strong the market is. The market's fake. Those numbers are fake. They're not. Those are bloviated, out of control, disgusting numbers that have no facts behind them. And it's all coming crashing down because there's too much money floating out there to represent that money. They can't hide it as well as they used to. Top out of it through art, through trafficking. There was ways to launder that money to get rid of those dollars. That's why I say rich people. Why do you think rich people pay, $50 million for something that, somebody threw at a piece of canvas that looks like a baby threw up on it? They're not paying for art. They're hiding their money. That's how it works.
Have something you
Yeah,
want to
I
say?
wanted to comment on Nancy's point about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency being backed by some sort of fiat currency. Gemini is telling me that Bitcoin is not backed by any fiat currency.
But you
It's,
have to use fiat to buy it.
You can, but the point is, Bitcoin's value is derived from what?
Use.
Yeah.
It's scarcity, it's security, utility, network.
Thank you.
And trust.
But again, how do you buy Bitcoin? You can't take a loaf of bread and say, give me a Bitcoin.
You go to your neighbor and you hand him a gold coin and say, I want the equal value in Bitcoin.
No. I mean, you can buy a Tesla using
I want to buy a house using my Bitcoin.
Yeah, there you go.
And you can do it. You can do it now.
So what do you do now with the ETFs?
Well,
Because this is what I mean. The fantasy land has been kind of obliterated, guys.
you got to be careful. You got to be careful and not fall for a lot of Mark Edworthy stuff because he's a scoundrel. Okay?
Here we go. Wait, Mark, do the flip. Do the flip.
There's two things Mark hates, and that's freaking artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency. And he hates the word artificial.
I don't. No, I don't.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, Mark.
Dislike the theory. I don't like. What I don't like is the sort of marketing hype, the marketing misuse of the terms.
Mark, did you take revenge on Roger? Am I looking at a miniature picture of Roger in your avatar? And am I looking at actually a live video with Roger's happy little face in the middle of your picture? Or was that Roger?
No, that's me. I have to.
Seeing Roger's happy little bald head at the bottom of my profile picture.
Well,
see, you don't understand the history of this. Roger went through my entire show with a picture of Mark Edworthy amidst, I don't even want to know what I would like, some kind of demonic pornography of some sort. Through the whole show, I was looking at Mark Edworthy's little face.
Yeah, he had a little crown on his head.
And I still don't like. I still dislike that image. I really don't like that image.
No, the reason why you're seeing that now is because I have to have an avatar of myself on the screen for.
But it's on Mark's screen.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that cool? What do you think about that, Mark?
Mark, it looks like you have a mini Roger. just pat his head. You can cry.
I did make a comment the other day about hand puppet on my hand.
That's awesome. Dude, that is awesome.
Yeah.
You guys would be dangerous with anime. You really would. I'm just going to put that out there. But I mean,
I still got my arguments. I'm still gonna buck back against everything you just said, Nancy.
With Bitcoin, dog with a bone. You never stop. You just can't. You can't agree to disagree.
Yeah, well, who was in the financial?
No, I understand that.
No, I do agree with a lot of the aspects he's talking about, because even today, okay, if you keep a watch on the prices of Bitcoin, the transactions that are taking place is really suspicious.
But the transactions are going with the stock market. As the stock market goes up,
for example, okay, like Ethereum, you can see the volatility, obviously, transactions, okay?
Yes.
But
yes.
with Bitcoin, like, they lose massive amounts, and then all of a sudden, one day, somebody tons and tons of Bitcoin back into the price. And, and that's just
that's manipulation. That's market. That's just market manipulation. They're pumping and dumping. Right. And I get that. That's not what I'm saying. Bitcoin is the dollar, the digital dollar, whereas Ripple is the Swift banking network.
Mm-hmm.
Ripple represents the Swift banking network, carrying dollars, rubles, whatever they decide they want to back, because they're going to tokenize everything.
I do agree with that. Yep, they are going to tokenize it.
Well, I mean,
so the real value is whatever it is that they're saying it represents. It's not the actual digital token itself.
Well, see, and you got to think on a ethical level. That's not very ethical. It's very, very unethical. And if with what you're saying right there, I could see them doing that with those kind of freaking currencies too. Because and they'd be doing it on a regular basis. It's just the way that they do their business is very unethical, in my opinion.
That's Wall Street manipulation. Okay, that's a deep state manipulation. That's all there is to it. But I mean, the point was that the base idea behind Bitcoin was that if everybody used it, all of those market fluctuations would be gone, because it would be money. The value would not change between countries. You can fly from the United States to El Salvador or to Russia or to China or whatever, and that Bitcoin will still hold the same value in that country, because it's not tied to any government or any bank manipulation. The valuation is based on the people, and the more people use it as money, the less they're able to manipulate it. Once we get to the point where we're transacting in Satoshis instead of Bitcoin, that's when you'll see everything settle out.
But that kind of got blown out of the water when Bitcoin went into orbit, and the common person can't even afford the Satoshis.
No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. You can get $20 worth of Satoshis. You can divide a Bitcoin down to millions of a Bitcoin.
That's true. But there's only so many Bitcoin,
which breaks down into Satoshis. The idea was never that the Bitcoins would be one Bitcoin would be all. A Bitcoin would be the only thing that's transactional value. Basically, at some point it would be valued so high. One Bitcoin would be worth so much that you would have to transact in Satoshis.
Yeah,
and I put the chicken up. Don't worry about it.
That's where everything gets really, really complicated, and it's really hard for a lot of people to understand Bitcoin. It took me a while until I finally hunkered down and started paying attention to prices and stuff like that.
And I understand that. A lot of people had a problem with it because they didn't understand. They didn't understand how money works. They don't understand how valuations happen. A piece of junk art that to you and me looks like absolute garbage. Somebody threw a paint can against the wall. That can be sold off at auction for millions of dollars, and now somebody has just laundered $1 million worth of drug money or whatever it is. You understand?
So, Roger,
yeah.
That's what we're talking about, digital cryptocurrencies now. Did you want to bring up any more topics about Horizon and Meta?
Well, I mean, with Meta, the thing that when it comes to Meta, it has absolutely nothing to do with that. I actually did have talking points that was talking about NFTs and things of that nature. But with this Bitcoin thing, I was actually, that was one area that I wanted to eventually go into, but that was at a later time, and I decided not to really put it in. But it sounds like it's actually being covered right now. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
sounds like we're switching topic. You can do the meta next time.
Now, the one thing that I do know that we can talk about when it comes to what we've been talking about here is like with Meta, okay, and everybody's been talking about security and everything, okay. Um, Now, with this whole thing with VR and AI and AR and all that stuff, um,
Yeah,
the one thing,
I wanted to ask Nancy too. If she does pen testing, have you ever tested these VR helmets for security flaws? Like the MetaQuest goggle.
yeah, or like they've also got I think it's called Horizon, Meta Horizon.
Those devices
Meta
are
Horizon,
solely
isn't it a
hardware.
game platform?
Those things are solely hardware devices. The security is in relation to the client software.
We're talking about
Why would you?
the firmware that, yeah, the software that is powered that powers those devices.
Now they're running to get some chicken. They had to do something with the chicken and everything. So, but yeah, that's the one thing that I was wanting to bring up. And then like when it comes to like there is social questions that need to be answered when it comes to this kind of stuff because like there's ethical and privacy.
Oh, Nancy
Uh,
dropped up. She went to
yeah,
get chickens.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Chicken.
went to put the chicken up. I had to lock her in for the night.
Mhm. Chicken. But
Well,
yeah,
what about Nancy? She dropped off completely.
She ran out back to go smoke a cigarette. I don't know for what, but
but yeah.
she might have gone out of reach.
But yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about. And then like NFTs too, like when you're talking about paintings and being able to freaking do that with paintings and everything, you can do the same basic concepts with NFTs, which to a
That's
lot of
exactly.
people, yeah, well,
Yeah,
yeah,
that actually sums up my argument exactly.
you know,
Basically, anything. Basically, whatever value is in what we put into it. You know, if we value it for whatever reason, well, then that's what it's worth. You know, we say an ugly, I don't know, say a Salvador Dali is worth $700 or $7 million. Who knows? It's just it's all in what we say it's worth,
mhm,
what the market says it's worth. And so
I
anything, and you know, you go back in the history of money, going back 6,000 years. I mean, they've used everything from tally sticks to rocks to gold and silver as money.
right.
Not
And,
I
you,
have
John.
this problem. I have this problem all the time. I get people saying this product's worth that thing, or it's worth so much dollars or pounds, and really when they're talking about worth, they're talking about value rather than worth. And there's people get confused between a worth and value.
right. And see, like if you want to take it to the level of Meta and their VR worlds and stuff, like you go in there, and I was wanting to bring up the custom uh, creation part of it. You know, and the thing of it is you can create custom avatars, things of that nature, and then you can turn around and you can sell NFT, sell that same thing as an NFT. You know what I mean, to other people. That nature, and then and that's another thing that they're talking about too when it comes to privacy laws and ownership laws and ethics and things behind that. You know what actually belongs to you and what doesn't belong to you. It can all
But
be manipulated.
arguably, in Western countries, there are existing laws about ownership, and
Well,
Yeah.
how do you
So,
apply that to virtual reality platforms, though? You know,
that's a good question. But if you're buying a service from a company, then you're still protected by your various consumer acts. In the UK, in 1974, I think, Consumer Act would be applicable. My problem is with non-fungible tokens, NFTs, is the way that they're being used at the moment to purchase one-off goods. That's, as far as I can see, that's a very limited and very hit and miss sort of method of using them. I would like to see more use of NFTs in relation to things like processing receipts. So rather than actually buying a NFT product, you just using the NFT as a receipt for a actual product.
see, the non-fungible token in itself is the receipt. You know what I mean? That's why. First of all, it's supposed to be decentralized. So if you don't keep the information somewhere personal and you lose it, then it's gone. Okay. But as long as you have that information and nobody else has it, that is yours 100%. You know what I mean? It's like a distinct signature, and nobody else has that. And that's what these are. You can create anything, or you can create an NFT out of anything. Go in there and make a coin. Like I could make, I was wanting to do the NFT or the WoW coin for the Wonderful World of Weirdness. I could just make a coin, turn it into an NFT, and bam, I've got NFT WoW coins.
Technically.
But the only problem is selling them. Nobody likes,
Yeah, it's the same.
nobody likes the Wonderful World of Weirdness. We don't have that cool, hip, up to date style. So, but that's basically what I know when it comes to NFTs. The NFT itself is a receipt. Like it's not real. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to get a receipt in the mail saying, "Look, man, here's your receipt for your NFT."
But how it's been viewed as these days, and in the old sort of chatter, sort of making a treat a NFT. The concept is to actually make a product itself. Minds Gaming uses the NFT principle to sell art, doesn't he?
Yeah,
It's card.
I believe.
So he actually portrays the card itself or the image itself as an NFT rather than the receipt of purchasing the card or the image as an NFT.
Yeah, that is that is something that he does, and I know. Well, with this whole thing that we were talking about
Or the
before
image itself
about
as an
hubs,
NFT.
okay, and that, well, not just hubs, but like the metaverse and things like that. You have to understand, like, these are like generic words that are being thrown around. There's actually different platforms that pertain to the metaverse or freaking the term hubs. Okay, now Minds Gaming, for example, was on Mozilla hubs, and they went out of business. So he, in turn, had to go to another platform to create his own VR world, and he uses A-Frame now. Whereas when you're talking about hubs here, when it comes to Meta, what you're actually talking about is Meta Horizon, okay? And on there, they're constantly throwing the term freaking metaverse up, and they're always throwing the word hubs up, but it's that those are generic words. So when you're
Again, at the end of the day, they are just marketing terms.
you know, well,
They
I mean,
don't have any sort of intrinsical sort of meaning to themselves.
right. But just be aware that when you're saying hubs, you're not saying like everything that's mentioned when you're saying hubs is hubs, like one big freaking thing. It's like you got to ask people to be specific. Like when you're talking about hubs, what exactly are you talking about? Or when you're talking about the metaverse, what are you talking about? Because like Meta has its own metaverse that they call the metaverse, which is actually Meta Horizon. And then you have decentralized, the decentralized metaverses or metaverse and stuff of that nature, and a lot of that gets confused. So that's one thing.
But it goes back to the point. I know you get annoyed with me all the time about this. It's going back to being specific about what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Definitely in the details sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing. Whenever you brought that up, it made me think about that because, I think we had a little bit of a talk beforehand about it when, and it's good to have that brought back up while we're in. Sit up closer.
Sorry.
Dan, sit up closer to your mic.
Yeah.
I gotta let the dog out the door.
Very, very quiet.
What's going? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Which microphone am I using? I thought I was using my earbud. Guess not. Can you hear me better now?
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's good.
I was using the wrong microphone. Yeah. Anyway,
No,
the question was, when Mark Zuckerberg tried to use the term metaverse for his Meta stuff, what does he mean? Is he talking about
he was
the
talking about
ecosystem of Meta Horizon users, or
Yeah.
I think it's describing the virtual reality environment of all these meta gamers.
Yeah.
Well, it's
This is why before when we were talking about it before the stream, I was curious to see if metaverse was a trademarked term, but I found out it's not trademarked. It's just a colloquial term.
Yeah.
And, can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, and we actually hear you.
Good.
So you're good now. It's basically Meta Horizon is what it is, and Meta Horizon is more than just like games and stuff. Like you can actually go in and have like spaces set up, hubs that are set up like Minds Gaming does with his group. They go in and they have meetings and stuff, and you can actually do stuff of that nature. And then I think they're also setting up a business kind of orientation where you're going into a conference room.
I seem to remember them. I seem to remember him demoing in one of his users conference or something like that, where you have a gamer on one side of the world reaching out, and then like touching an avatar of another gamer somewhere else in the world, and somehow they're able to collaborate through this avatars of each other, like in a collaborative virtual environment. So that is their metaverse. Is that
just before the stream, you brought up a comment on Matrix in relation to considering that it was this is really solely about the entertainment and gaming sort of aspects. And I pointed out to you that this can easily be used for enterprise-related purposes.
Yeah, sure. Like virtual meetings. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Did you actually pull up research and stuff that you got from that, Mark? Or
No, I'm just remembering the days of what was it, Alpha World, back in the 90s, where or back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where I actually went to a few virtual world VRML went to, but I attended, and and obviously at this time we were talking about VRML, so we were talking about the early days. But being able to walk around, virtually walk around stores and look at different products.
I just sent, this is the really old, like 3 years ago, this thing came out, right? This is one of the videos, or I think it was, the marketing video meeting. If you can play that on the stream.
Yeah, I can see if I can do it. No.
Actually, I can share it on the screen.
Yeah, actually, that would probably be better, because if you screen share, then we can actually.
Yeah, hang on a second. Let me just.
Computer. It looks like URLs, two addresses in one.
Oh yeah, it's my copy paste. Copy paste issue. Okay, hang on. Let me just. And
I put it on.
And I share.
I put it on presentation so that it would be ready. Just hit screen share.
It was 3 years ago.
Yeah, and look at the
where
traction that Meta Platforms has received. It's a failing or failed product.
No, it's in the process.
It's in the process, yeah.
Why is a failing product?
They partner with Ray-Ban to create that.
Yeah.
And it is in the process of being a failed thing, because not Google, but Mozilla, like I was saying earlier, Mozilla just shut down their hubs because they didn't find it feasible. So I think
Mozilla Corporation.
Yeah, well, they
two different organizations technically. Foundation Corporation.
They allowed a new group who's open source to come in and take over on the old program and stuff. But I think I might still have their Discord channel on Discord, but I'm not quite sure about that. But they were wanting to turn it into, they're wanting to keep it going, but it was basically a failed thing. And I'd say that Meta's project, the only reason why it's still going is because Zuckerberg has a lot of money.
Yeah. He's just pouring money into it.
And this brings me into another subject that I think is important to realize too. Like, everybody looks at Facebook and they look at all of these other media sources, and they think that that's just about making money, and it's really not, because you got to realize these are backed by companies like Alphabet Inc. and Meta, who are using that data that they're pulling from this stuff. So, I mean, if you're going to do research, it's going to cost you money. You know what I mean? No matter what. So if you're actually pulling your data straight off of platforms like YouTube or whatever it is, then you're willing to take the loss, because it's actually helping you out on the research you're doing in projects like this. That's the way I'm seeing it.
Yeah, it's the old principle of you produce a product, and Microsoft's a good case of this. For many years, and I think still, Microsoft has never really broke even when it came to
that's the way I'm seeing
selling of Microsoft Windows. they've always made the profit through auxiliary Microsoft Office.
Mm-hmm. Using it as a guinea pig, basically.
So the Meta Ray-Ban glasses were released. First version was released in 2023. So they're
Yeah.
out there. It's just
Yeah.
not very popular or something. I don't know. Since then, nobody talks about it.
Well,
But they're releasing updates and things like that.
now be careful about
I
wanting to
have
share
got a
them.
post. I have got a post on mine that dates back to something like that. That announced the merger. I'm not sure if it's merger. I can't remember the actual thing, but yeah, just talked about the two companies working together, and as you say, as far as the standard marketing thing is, people are not really. There hasn't been that much traction.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than the. It's more portable than the Meta Quest goggle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it's more tailored for travelers than gamers, right? Because gamers, they're sitting in their living room, they can just wear the Quest helmet, which will probably give you more immersive experience than peering through the tiny hole in glass.
Also, if you're talking about, I was going to say, if you're going to talk about games, but this could be used in any example. If the
He's frozen.
how many computers can you think of back in the 8-bit days that sort of lost traction because there wasn't enough developers, or 8 and 16-bit days, when because not enough developers wanted to produce software
on that platform, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, plus you know that the coding.
You mean I go back to the Amiga 500, which architecturally is very good in terms of sound and graphics, but people develop not.
Actually, Amiga is a bad example because they did have up to the sort of mistakes of 94, 95, between 87 and 94, there was a lot of traction, especially in Europe. Not so much in the US, but in North America, but in Europe especially. But if we want to use a good example, the Atari Jaguar Lynx, Atari Jaguar and Atari Lynx platforms. Back in 89, 90, these devices were created, but they didn't have very much traction as far as software developers were concerned.
Okay.
Now,
yeah. Looks like Mark and not Mark. Raph and Nancy dropped off.
Yeah, they had to go eat some chicken. They put chicken in the in this oven, and Raph even went and used the bathroom and dropped a few pounds before it happened because he knew it was going to be a big meal. And
wait, are they a couple? Are they married?
Yeah, their husband.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that. Okay, I thought they were separate. They're living in separate cities. I thought.
Now,
right? That's cool.
Now,
how come they like fight each other on live stream shows just like a real married couple?
Well, they are a married couple. Yeah, you know. Well, I mean, you think that's bad? You should have heard the horrible stuff they were saying about me before you got in. Man, I was supposed to be getting lynched up and freaking put put on a freaking flame of fire and have gasoline doused on me, and
That's not fair.
then
That's
maybe
not what happened, right? So they tied you up and rolled you like a barbecue for dinner.
no, I was the chicken actually. I was the guy
You
that
want
got
the
the
chicken?
roast.
Yeah, that's nice. I mean, it's good for you to be there to be the something for them to like an enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing.
Well, I don't
So
know about all that.
yeah,
I think
you're there for them.
Rogers,
You're there to keep
I think
them.
Rogers
It
is
really sucks
Yeah.
being the enemy of
overstating
my
at the
enemy.
best. I think it's over. Yeah,
You
I
know,
think
you know, it really sucks being the enemy of my enemy. Okay, because because you're the one that has to be there. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, yeah.
but now with the Meta Horizon thing, you got to understand something. When we were talking about the hubs, okay, all of these are components within Meta Horizon. And not only do you have the video games and the hanging out and stuff like that, but they have different areas that you can go to. So it's like its own platform that
Yeah.
you have different features for. What I found out is like when you get the goggles after you pay for them, everything else is free except for the stuff that you want to add. So you can get on there and you can go visit everything.
free as in
You still have to
financially
pay for the
free.
games, right?
Yeah. Free as in financially free, not free as in.
You still have to pay for the
yeah.
games, right?
If you want to add them in, yes, I believe so.
Okay. Yeah.
Now,
Or is there like a game subscription that you can just subscribe and get pay monthly and then get unlimited games?
now I would. This is
It's
just
got
guessing, but I would,
access to games rather than get the games.
I would, I would, I would
Uh,
personally believe that it would be like in regular reality where you're on your computer and you want to play a game, you go to Steam and you pay for it. You would probably have to do that with your
Yeah.
goggles and install
Yeah.
it in there. You know,
remember,
yeah.
you aren't paying for the game; you are paying for access to the game. There's a big difference there. It's like if I'm paying, did I buy this lighter or did I buy the access to this lighter? Obviously, I bought this physical lighter, but as far as the games and intellectual property is concerned, you are just paying a license to access those products.
right?
It's like
Yeah,
there is a difference.
there's a technical difference, but in terms of practicality, there's
No, because how many times have we seen companies say, "Well, we are now discontinuing this service, therefore you can't have access to the functionality of said product."
Now, the way it's
Yeah, that's the
basically,
thing that sucks about online games. Like in the olden days, I just buy the game and I have on my hand a physical copy of it.
I believe there is a court case going on with Valve, Steam, in relation to who owns the product. As an example, if I bought access to a product and I die,
Mhm.
can my son, my child inherit that product?
well, first of all, you don't go to Steam and say, "Look, my father's dead. Can I take over on?" Come on, dude, seriously. You know,
But if you own the product,
My father's dead. Can I take over his gaming account?
Roger Hansen is going to live forever, dude. Okay,
In the Matrix.
That's
all
right.
mortal.
You know what I mean? So, I mean that right there just has idiot written all over your head, dude. If you're gonna go and do something like that, it's like I don't get people on Facebook who freaking like go on and tell people that so and so died. And
But if I die I could, my child, if I had a child, could inherit this lighter. They
Okay.
can't
Yeah, I
inherit
mean,
a
so it depends on the kind of license that you have bought. I mean, if you bought a perpetual license to some software, uh, imagine that would be transferable unless it's stipulated in the like end user's license agreement that it's not transferable. Just like a ticket that you bought.
Um, I mean, its most simplest point is when we used to go out and actually buy physical discs and tapes, boxed games. Your child could inherit that. You could give that game to your that medium
But
to
wait,
your
but
kid.
not necessarily, unless the license of that game says you're not allowed to transfer that to ownership to anybody else.
Well,
You can
that
do
would be,
it illegally, but
and actually no, that's depends on which country you're in. In the UK, as an example, once you bought a physical product, then that is your own. That you own that physical product, and therefore no terms of services. It would be a violation of various consumer acts to make a service agreement to say that you bought that physical product, therefore you yourself can only use that product and you cannot transfer that product to another person.
well, no. So look at movies, for example.
Yes,
If
but
you
you're not
bought
buying
a
a
disc
physical
of movie,
product.
you're not allowed to transfer that to anybody.
You can transfer. You cannot make copies except for a backup copy, but under UK and US law, but you cannot. But you can transfer the physical disc.
Are you sure? I mean,
Yeah.
it's the if you buy a movie and you watch it and then you just hand it over to the next 100 friends, the
No,
the
you are
movie
only
the
you
movie
only
still
handing it over.
losing
You
money. So
only
I don't know.
handing it over to one person. So you've only bought one product,
One at a
haven't you?
time, right? And then when they finish watching, they transfer to the next person perpetually. But only one person is watching it at a time. So there's a loophole in there if
Yeah,
you're
that's
Well,
allowed to do it.
it's not really a loophole. What it is freaking here in the United States, possession is 9/10 of the law. Okay, so if I turn around and I have the freaking property in my possession, then I own the property. You see what I
the
mean?
physical product, the
That's
physical
what
The
property.
physical,
that's what
yeah.
used to happen in Vietnam for land ownership too. But but not. Are you sure now? I mean, for old stuff that are not very valuable, but for like valuable stuff, just because you hold it doesn't mean that you own it. You need to proof of ownership. I mean, I traveled to the United States years ago carrying a work laptop, and then when I come back, they ask me that I have to prove. Do I have proof that this laptop is mine? Right?
Yeah.
Possession is no.
Well, that's because you're one of those dirty Canadians, dude. Freaking,
Oh, right.
you're trying to
They
come
smuggle laptops from the United States
getting
back to
all of our
Canada.
good technology and stuff and taking it back to that horrible country, Canada, where you guys have no
Well, the irony is, I was bringing technologies from Canada to service American.
Exactly. You guys are more laid back on your what do they call that? Freaking borders than what we are.
Border
Like,
security, yeah.
well, with us, freaking, you need a state ID to go across into Canada. But if
Yeah,
I
yeah.
go,
Mind you, the Canadian side of the customs were the guys that were giving me a hard time for proving the ownership of the laptop that I carry back from the United States.
oh, so the Canadians didn't like it. Yeah, they were.
Canadians were the guys that, but the point was, possession is not 9/10 of the law.
Well,
all
according
the
to
time.
Canadian law, though, like
I'm not sure, but I'll have to have a look
Touche.
at Canadian.
Touche.
yeah,
Right.
and I've
But
already said it with Naroki
but-
the other day. I have no comprehension of Canadian law. Like it's
But
still
as another example, if let's say you acted as you owned a bag and somebody slipped in some drugs into the
Right.
bag
Right.
before you leave the border, and technically because you own the bag or because
Yeah.
the bag's your ownership, therefore you own the drugs, therefore you could be prosecuted for drug smuggling.
Yeah, it's some kind of like double standards there, right? So why can't they apply that kind of rules to my laptop? It's with my body, so why don't they assume that I own it?
well, it goes even further though, because like here in the virtual world and stuff, like how do you actually take claim to that? Like you were talking about Facebook passing away and stuff. It gets even that's another part of the whole conversation about like how do you actually determine what belongs to you and what doesn't belong to you when you're in this
Again,
kind of
it's
environment?
simple in the physical world. Again, my example of a lighter. But when it comes to, as proven by the current Steam law case, legal case in the US, you do not own the products because you only buying a license to a virtual product.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just a license to use.
You are buying a license to access the virtual product.
Well, I mean, it goes even farther than that because, like, if you go into Meta, okay, Meta VR, it has tools that they allow you to use, okay, so to create your own like virtual environments and stuff, and you're using their tools to create your environment. So it goes even deeper than that. You know what I mean? So you're not using anything that actually belongs to you. You're using their tools to create something.
Again, virtual tools rather than actual physical. Again, got to make a distinction between a physical tool and a virtual tool.
But
Well,
it
we're
was
talking about intellectual property now. So if you're using Meta's tool to create a world of your own, you would assume that the world that you create is yours. I mean, this is your
No,
idea that gave it into shape.
I would think if you have a look at the Meta terms of services contract, they still own the assets. They still own the physical, or not physical. They still own that entity.
right.
That's not very nice. That's the same thing that happened to the Adobe license, isn't it? That doesn't seem very fair.
Well, see, they blindside you. They set up things like Object Creator, and you're thinking, "Oh, this is cool, man! I can go in here and I can create something." They're helping me freaking with these tools, but you're not realizing they're giving you tools so that you can do their work for them.
I mentioned the California Consumer Protection Act earlier, and this is another stipulation that they created within that. They defined what is selling and what is renting. So you get these companies saying, buy our latest products when you're only actually technically renting that. The California Consumer Protection Act does stipulate the difference between what is a purchase and what is a lease, what is a rent.
Right. Now, also, I want to. I found the information for that. Now, there are different environments when it comes to Horizon. There's actually one called Horizon Workspace, and then there's another one called Horizon World. So, you and then they do that on purpose to where freaking they have distinct names that goes with it. So
Yeah, well, it's good for marketing, isn't it? It's, also, they can provide different service agreements for these different products or these similar products.
right. No, it's like with these tools, from what I'm hearing, is like they basically give you the tools to freaking create your own worlds, and then they'll give you like shapes, you know what I mean, geometric shapes that you can form into whatever it is you want it to become. And so it's like there's nothing actually there that's actually original. You know what I mean?
No, funnily enough, it reminds me, what was it? I think it was a company called Dolmark back in the 90s that created a tool called 3D construction kit, which was actually the basis of a couple games back in the 90s. But yeah, this idea has been around for decades now.
Yeah, no, I was messing around with VR chat with I was using Unity and Blender. First, I created the assets with Blender and then transferred them over to Unity. And then from Unity, I switched it over to freaking VR chat to make a world. And this was back before they came along with Unreal Engine, which is a lot easier apparently. But the thing of it is you go through all of that crap just to get freaking VR chat, and they said that they're not going to open your world up unless you have like 3 people on your freaking subscribe list, you know, and stuff like that. And then like you can create games on Unity, but it's going to cost you money to freaking actually get it released.
Yeah. I remember me and Minds Gaming having a long discussion about Unity's end user license agreement and how restrictive it was several years ago now.
Yeah, I have no idea how Unreal Engine is anymore, but he got Minds Gaming got caught up in that A-frame, you know, and I mean the thing that I noticed comparing Unity to A-frame together is something that really stuck out to me when it comes to like setting up these virtual websites. It's really garbage, to be honest with you, because like if you're actually on Blender or you're on Adobe or whatever computer graphics programs you're using, you get to use cool stuff. Like you get to create freaking your own materials. You get to, and these are real materials. Okay, you get your own textures, all of this stuff. Now, when you go into these websites and you set them up, a lot of it they won't allow you to go and use freaking these assets from Blender because, well, they will if you're really good with it. Because like on the metadata, you can set your metadata to the right way where you can get it put on there. But if you're not really good with it, you're not going to be able to do it.
So if you follow, but it's like anything, if you follow the rules, then yeah, you can use those assets in whatever purpose.
Here's the trick of it though. Like the code that goes into setting these freaking assets up as an actual animation or graphics is insane. Okay. The majority of people who go in to do this stuff is actually using textures that are really photos, just pictures. You know what I mean? And that's because it's easier. So that's my take on it, you know. And like whenever I go in to do Blender, I like the fact that I can use freaking textures that are actually my textures, you know, or I can actually use an asset that's real fire, you know what I mean? Things of that.
As long as you own the license to that
you know,
asset. You can. It's like I don't know, any content. If you are violating, if you are using assets that you haven't got rights to, then you could be violating things like copyright laws.
No, I mean, I'm creating it, and you
Okay.
can use them on there. But the thing of it is you have to jump through hoops to do it. You know, I mean, it is really, really. I'm talking really insane. The script that you have to use to apply this stuff. He was using A-frame, and I mean, it was the first time I've ever had a chance to use A-frame code, and that stuff is freaking horrible. That is like the worst freaking code you could ever learn in your life. And
I don't know. I've done a bit of Lisp and full in the past.
well, I mean, I'm not. I don't know. I'll leave that one alone. I'll just tell you, I had a really, really horrible experience from it, and then when it comes to all of that too, you have to freaking rely on code, and of course with code you have to make sure everything's set up for both the computer and the telephone because all these cool people are into freaking mobile phones now. You know.
But yeah, that's much like websites. I've got one or two websites that look absolutely awful on mobile phones just because things like aspect ratios and stuff. And yeah, you've got to really just think about your intended usage. Your intended audience usage.
Well, a lot of people suggest that you incorporate both of them into where freaking you're being friendly to your customer. You see, you rebel. You just a rebel, dude.
Again, intended usage.
But you know, I mean, it's like that's my whole point when it comes to like creating your own environments and stuff and using custom shit to do it with because it's not what it's all made out to be. Whenever, especially when it comes to having to deal with code and then being able to do freaking dynamic freaking stuff, you know what I mean, on these platforms, it's not as easy as what they said. Like, I wanted to set up force fields for a room where you couldn't go past those parameters. You stayed within those walls, okay? And it didn't work. No matter how hard I tried, it didn't work, you know.
Actually, yeah, you showed me an example about 2-3 months ago. Actually.
Yeah.
It was fire example. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, and that's the thing that I found out when it came to all of that. So I don't know. And then after I freaking did all that stuff, you know, it got to the point where I didn't want to do nothing anymore with it. It just made me sick and tired of doing it, you know. I forgot why I hated code. I really did. But
this is why I don't call myself a developer because I maybe when I was a kid I was a fan of programming, but no, this is why I moved into things like support and technical support and stuff because I didn't want to do all that tedious and frustrating work. Even though end user support can be frustrating and tedious at times in itself, but yeah, I'm not a developer, not anymore anyway.
You know, and all through it, it's like, you know, you keep always badgering me about advertisement and stuff. And I was checking this whole thing out, and it just seems like freaking they were like pushing the advertisement to the limits on this stuff. Like they were really trying to emphasize to everybody that freaking the platform is trying their best to freaking make it to where it's not too sophisticated and makes it makes its capabilities freaking, you know, available to even the casual user. All you got to do is go in there and click a few freaking spaces and move a few freaking squares, and bam, you're good to go. You know, like, and I noticed Unity's doing that same shit. Like they're going in and they're using Lego's framework, where all you got to do is set up a framework infrastructure, and you can just push a button and it'll cause a freaking reaction.
I mean, you could use web development in the same concept. You could sit down and start writing code all day, every day, and or you could use a product service like Squarespace, just to plonk a graphic and a piece of text into a framework.
No, it's just that they're triggers. That's all they are. You can set triggers up with code anywhere you want to do any function you want it to do if you know what you're doing. You know, I mean, but that's the thing that gets annoying when it comes to like actually using real graphics that you create on programs like Adobe Prime or freaking what do they call it, XF, and on Blender.
If you're like Mr. Robot, use AI to help you code most of the stuff these days.
Oh, I do. Believe it or not, I despise it.
Just don't do any of the work yourself. Just get the machine to do all the work.
I mean, just do the stuff. I mean, use the AI to do the mundane stuff that has been done hundreds of times over on the internet.
Wow.
And leave your brain to the actual innovative stuff that you're putting into your program.
Well, I don't think that Mr. Robot's really doing that, though. I think he's just like making AI do everything for him.
Yeah.
No. I'm giving him an example of using, like, he's using AI to help.
This is my major. The entire sort of this is something that we have spoken of a few times in relation to the removal of human ingenuity, the lack of creativeness. You just get a machine to do it all for you.
No, well, I mean, you still have some human ingenuity that the machine can't do. AIs and its deep learning might be able to come up with some, okay, can it write, can it recreate Shakespeare? Maybe it can. But that doesn't stop you from innovating. The most common use of AI that I could think of is just to make it, use its best and speed of searching to implement the stuff that has already been done thousands of times before. You don't have to come up with stuff from first principles. That's a waste of time. You come up with other stuff that hasn't been done already.
Well, even the stuff that has been done, like I've been saying this, and people like minimize this, but it's really important to think about. Look at how much money Grammarly makes off of freaking people who want their freaking writing to freaking sound really good grammar-wise. You can go on these AI programs and they will correct your grammar for you for free. Use it for stuff like that. You're saving $200 or freaking at least $200 a month on Grammarly, isn't it?
Or do what I do: use a dictionary and a thesaurus.
We don't associate.
We don't want the too old-fashioned back to the Stone Age.
Yeah, he's just like, I like today.
Also, all of these automated tools, sure, they might be convenient, but it removes an element of education.
Sure.
Limits
You need to
it's-
learn with any new tools. You need some how do you call it, ramping up to learn how to use the tool well.
Well, he's kind of referring to like when me and him was having a conversation about calculators. That was like the same concept. The calculator. They started allowing calculators in schools. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, kids aren't freaking sitting down with a piece of paper and writing math problems out. They can just go ahead and just type it in with their calculator, which Mark is okay with.
Yeah,
Well, they're
because
still not allowing
you still have to
calculators
have an
in school
understanding of
exams,
the
you know.
principle. You still have to have a fundamental understanding of the
Fundamental
principle.
basic principles. So that the exam questions now are just not about calculation, but testing you basic knowledge of the principles. Like the number crunching, you don't need the calculator. They will set up the questions so simple that you don't need calculators to do it. But so long as you understand the concept. They're still not allowing calculators in school exams.
Right. Now, before we go on, I also want to go back over what I pulled up when it comes to the term metaverse. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
It's important to clarify how the word
Is it
metaverse.
yes? Is it trademarked by somebody? Like did Marvel trademark it?
No. No. Since describing no, hold on, since it's often caused a lot of confusion, you need to really understand this. Okay. The term metaverse is broadly used to describe like a conceptual digital space made up of integral environments, and that means
Break out and
now, in
What a virtual space. Define a virtual space.
now larger that developed in different companies commit some metas. So you lot of platforms and community themselves as the metaverse. And for a good example, you have something called one called Decentral, and then I know you guys have heard of the Sandbox. Yeah,
As a general concept.
in what context?
it's the name of the actual platform. Like
Okay, I'm not
no.
able to put up.
Well, you've heard of VR chat, right?
That's a general concept again, or
No, these are actual platforms.
Okay, when it comes to actual products.
Yeah. Now VR chat is another one, but then we were just talking about Mozilla Hubs. That's another one, and that's the one that shut down here recently. And now on Minds, whenever we are on there and we're talking about this cool system that they're putting everybody into on Minds.com, the Fediverse falls under this same wider interpretation of the metaverse too. So you've got all of these different companies, different freaking platforms calling.
apparently metaverse is not trademarkable.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I did check that before we started the stream.
Same idea for Fediverse.
platforms trademarked it, but no.
Yeah. So I think it's important that a lot of people understand that, you know what I mean? And like with Meta, when you're talking about the metaverse with Meta, you're talking about Meta Horizon. You've got Meta avatars.
Mm-hmm.
There's Meta Quest, which is the headsets.
Metaverse was originally coined by Neil Stephenson, 1992 novel Snow Crash. You guys know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not know that. So
Yeah.
that's something that I did want to bring up so that people understand that, because I think that's probably one of the things I had an issue with until I actually went through and checked this stuff out. and the concepts are also different too, because
Yes. Yeah.
like the Fediverse is decentralization.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah, okay,
You
yeah.
know what I'm
Sorry, I
saying?
was going to say is the metaverse decentralized.
It's
Decentralized.
It's a network of
cannot be trademarked because it's too generic, basically.
right.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
term. Yeah.
And like the Fediverse is independently operated servers, you know, that interconnect using shared protocols and stuff like ActivityPub, the the
Right.
the thing that you guys are all cool about.
Yeah. No, the Minds guys.
Well, I mean, I heard you two kind of bragging up on it, how great it was.
I'll leave
I mean,
Dragon.
the fact that you were able to see Rhea's
Yeah,
Abyss post from Minds is thanks to ActivityPub.
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
I sold
In
out.
fact,
I sold
yeah,
out.
me was playing around with this just yesterday. In relation to a post that she published to a best cafe, and I
Yeah.
was looking at the sort of changes and the difference between what's displayed on Minds compared to what was displayed on Abyss.
Mhm.
Another reason why this is important to bring up too is because like when it comes to like ActivityPub and the Fediverse, you got to understand that the Fediverse includes platforms like Mastodon. You got PeerTube. What else?
Meta threads.
MetaThreads. Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
you know, and these aren't focused on like 3D virtual worlds at all either. But they,
Right.
you know what I mean. But they do have like alternative kind of digital communications and stuff like that you can look at. And that's really something that I did want to bring up because at first I wanted to get into that whole virtual. What was that virtual opera or whatever the hell it was I was going to talk about last week. And then I remembered, I was like, well, especially last week when we were going through that part, I brought it up. I was like, it just dawned on me. It was like, freaking, I remember when it first came out and I watched the video of it. And I thought, yeah, that'd be cool. And eventually, freaking, I'll go and I'll freaking see what it's all about. And I never did. I think I watched the video over again, maybe 2 more times. But to be honest with you, I was never interested in that shit at all. I kept saying that I was interested in it, but I never went back to check it out. And I'm just guessing that if I'm like that, most other people freaking were the same way. Do you guys ever remember watching a video about that?
No, that's all
Hey,
my
about what? I missed the last
Virtual,
part.
those old. Remember the videos that came out about the virtual operas and or
Virtual
virtual
opera.
orchestras, the virtual orchestras.
So you've got people playing instruments all over, not in a single room. You've got them all over the place.
Yeah, and they're meeting together inside of this.
Is that a game?
No, it's a virtual orchestra where they meet
Uh,
together and they play music together on a virtual world.
I haven't heard about that, but that sounds interesting. Who started that?
That was supposedly supposed to be Meta, Facebook, all them. Not sure.
Virtual orchestra. Uh, is something.
So you try a three-dimensional representation of.
It's an app, right?
Well, if it's been in alpha, it's been in alpha. It's been in alpha for quite a long time. If it's still in alpha, dude, because I remember this at least 3-4 years.
Is it the Philharmonia Orchestra?
Well, does it say virtual?
Philharmonia Orchestra is
Yeah.
It's in UK.
Yeah, it probably is. That's probably the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, maybe that's the one you're talking about. Let me send the link.
Mhm.
It's called the Virtual Orchestra, actually. Yeah.
Mhm. Now, from what I found out, they have MetaQuest 2 and MetaQuest 3. So, with all of this cool stuff, I want to let you guys hear what the prices are, okay? In US.
Wait, before you go to that, MetaQuest 1 was shut off. I think it was last year or 2 years ago. They stopped developers from ever creating new games on MetaQuest 1 due to some like deep flaw in security in that generation.
You want to hear about it?
Uh,
Okay.
why?
Well,
Actually,
what happened was is it became conscious and it decided that it wanted to destroy all of human.
actually, as
Generation
far as
one.
I can see, MetaQuest
Imagine
is
what happened with generation 2 and 3.
It
hang
was
on,
Let me look up.
hang on. As far as I can see, MetaQuest is a hardware. It's a number of hardware products.
right. You have to buy that. Right.
Yeah.
Now,
It's a go-go.
right.
Yeah.
Now, from what I've heard, MetaQuest 2 in US dollars.
MetaQuest 1 has security vulnerabilities and is no longer receiving securities update from Meta.
Right. Now for MetaQuest 2, it costs you $250 to $300 USD. Okay. Now for
Wait a minute. Wait. MetaQuest 2? Okay. It's like 2 years or a year ago. This is like 500, or maybe this is American.
Now MetaQuest 3 is $500 to $650, and that one is the one that is autonomous, where you don't need a computer to hook it into.
Right. Yep. Okay.
So you can get that one for $500 to $650.
Again, at recommended resale prices, wholesalers and other markets are available.
So what OS does it run on? Do you know?
It's an ARM. These are ARM-based architectures.
Yeah,
it's using the Meta Horizon OS.
Now, this is something I brought up to Mark too. Is later on, I think it would be cool to
right.
through.
So that makes sense. Back then, one of your topic point was Meta Horizon. Now, I thought it was a gaming platform, but interesting. This is actually an operating system that's powering all the Meta gaming platforms.
Yeah.
That's new information to me. That's
a proprietary license agreement with Imagine and ULA. Is there any concepts of allowing third-party developers to, in effect, open source the firmware or produce open source or produce their own firmware?
I don't know, to be honest. And to be fair, if you did do something like that, I guarantee you, you're not getting a warranty.
Obviously,
the warranty's gone
from the
if
original.
there is a warranty. Now, I wouldn't even.
Actually, I'm not so sure because it's like a computer, isn't it? Are you getting warranty for the hardware, or are you getting a warranty for the hardware plus the operating system?
That's a good question too. I know, like PlayStation, they came out with these locks where you couldn't open if you broke the lock. So I figured out how to freaking work around that.
With the exception of the first the PS.
Well, PS3 is the one, yeah. Right. But I did work around that, so I break into their PlayStation 3 without breaking the warranty. I can.
Anything apart from hardware modification So yeah, you would break the warranty in that case.
Well, I'm pretty
Let's
sure.
talk a little bit about the Horizon OS, guys.
Okay,
Uh,
we can do that.
It is based on Android. Apparently.
yeah, there's an ASLP derivative.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's open source, right?
No, because if I remember rightly, the Android project is under either an MIT BSD or a Apache license. Can't remember specifically, but hence the ability to actually produce commercial versions of that product. It's
Yeah.
not an AG. It's not a GNU GPL.
Yeah, no, it's close source.
So open
it's
source space. Copyright. It's not copyleft. Open source.
it's based. Well, it's using Android, which is open source, but it has a bunch of libraries that are proprietary. So
Yeah.
Now, I did get a message from Nancy, saying that she said, FYI, let me get there. She said, jumped off not because Raphael went on a rant again. Trust me, I am very used to that. He doesn't like being disagreed with. And then she said, LOL. And she said her daughter called because she had her ex-husband's safe and wanted to dispose of it, but he forgot. No, but he forgot the combo and told her there was ammo in the safe, so
oh jeez,
she was going to throw it out. So she bounced off and was giving her instructions.
She how to dispose the safe.
How do you legally dispose of it?
Wouldn't you just call up some repo man and?
No, she did. She did come back, is what she said, but we were already talking about Oculus at that point.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed appeared for a couple of seconds and disappeared.
Like, that's what I'm saying, people don't realize how freaking cool we are, dude. Like, we have freaking people on here that are disposing of safes and shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and cybersecurity experts.
Right, So that's
and counterintelligence personnel. That's right, Ralph is right.
Yeah, he's got a lot of cool freaking surveillance equipment and stuff that I got to check out whenever me and Summer did a Halloween special with him and Nancy, where she did an interview with Summer Todd. He had everything set up in front of this haunted museum, and it was really cool actually seeing that. So I thought that was cool.
That's cool.
Okay, so now, once the hardware is purchased, the core experience of Meta Horizons are free to access, according to them. But
again, free at financially free. Again,
the core
free is in free beer, right?
The creative,
not free speech.
Just don't use free, because free means several different things.
Okay, so I'll be more specific. You can explore worlds. You can create your own environments. You can attend social events, and you don't have to pay for a subscription or tickets. But there are optional purchases to the ecosystem. That includes like virtual items for avatars, exclusive experiences, or digital accessories. And this comes with purchases using in-app currency or real-world money. So you can actually have like in-app currency, which we had a show on that. Don't be fooled between like cryptocurrency and assets, because entities are completely different than freaking or they're not different. Don't get me wrong, but one's monetary and the other one's not. So
Well, the Quest ecosystem doesn't have its own currency, does it?
well, I mean, the thing of it is from what I found out, I'm kind of confused about it because one area
In-house
says they
token,
have crypto, but then another
utility
says
tokens, really well done. You
I
can
just read
purchase
something.
utility tokens. It's much like a lot of these games. Either you
They
can
call it
purchase
meta credits.
utility tokens or whatever. But purchase these utility credits or tokens or whatever you want to call them. Or you can grind, I don't know, jump
It's
50,000
very,
times.
very innovative,
well,
calling it meta credits.
Mark was like almost cool. He said the word grind and he didn't know how to follow up with it. You know what I mean? Or you could grind.
Well, you've seen all these games where they will
Grinding,
offer
yeah,
you,
I know.
yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Like you were that close to sounding cool, dude, and you just messed it up. Dude. It's like grind. Well, actually, what would be a good grinding aliens? Go on a video game and just start grinding and shredding, dude. You know what I mean? Because that's another word that goes good with grinded shred.
Okay.
Shredding shit, dude. Say it just like that too. Say I'm shredding shit, dude. And they'll be like, "Cool, dude. You video game grind stuff." Well, all right, I'm done. I'm done.
Whatever.
So I'm trying to find out if this meta credit is a form of crypto token. It's not.
Right.
No, it's just an in-house sort of not cryptographic.
Just like Robux, basically.
Yeah. Well, actually, you can purchase them. You can go in and use real money for the.
You use a meta credits, just like you can buy Robux.
Right. That's basically what it comes down to. A lot of the items vary widely. So they're not all the same thing. Meta apparently does have a experimented meta monetization option for Horizon Worlds, but I'm not really too familiar about all that.
Again, you talk about monetization as in cryptocurrency or
no, making money.
Where you can sell digital items and stuff like that in exchange for like access to.
So I could sell you a virtual representation of this lighter, and you will give me $50 for it.
You're starting to sound like an entrepreneur.
But in that principle.
You know that just hit him,
Roger.
that just hit him freaking sour, dude. Because when he said that and he put up that lighter, he was like getting retaliation right there. Now, basically, they're saying that the fees and everything it just reduces the creator's profit, but it also allows for like potential earnings, which is only within that virtual environment. So it sounds like
being the provider of the framework, the environment, they can make a cut themselves out of.
Sure.
They can.
Well, they can determine too if you just get points for your gaming or if you actually get money from it. You know what I mean? So like, because they'll be the only ones monopolizing all of that, and coming up with.
But that's dependent on the degree you sign.
The monetization thing, I don't think they have. You can. Their crops. Just mine's credit or not mine. Meta credits. meta credits,
So
which cannot be
technically, they aren't
converted back
selling.
into.
So they aren't actually selling; they're exchanging.
Yeah, they're changing it from.
They also have in the product to
It's actual for free.
they said
Yeah,
like
lift this. Yeah. Pretend like you're lifting weight, right?
those
no,
usually
but not like the martial arts trainings program, like the kung fu
that would
training
actually
program.
that would actually be real cool.
That would be cool. Yeah.
They say that only costs you like $10 or $30 per month. So now before I'm freaking it having me because of it, I'm gonna stop talking dollar bills because I know
you need to find sponsors before you can start talking advertising.
Yeah.
send me the money or show me the money.
Find sponsors. Okay. By the way, it's a good segue. Anybody out? Roger Hansen to showcase your product on his live stream.
Engines.
Yes, VPN vendors. Yes.
Disease. Yeah.
While the base costs for to enter is the metaverse is generally tied to the price of VR headsets. Additional do arise like optional digital purchases of subscriptions. Now, for casual users, it's possible to engage with the technology at relatively low outgoing costs after the initial hardware investment. However, for those looking to build, monetize, or deeply integrate into the ecosystem, the financial can grow depending on individual goals and usage. So that's what I wanted to finish that off with and be done with it. No more advertising.
So,
Well, now, what kind of content creator program be type MetaQuest?
Well, see if Mr. Robot was actually in here, which he's been in here for like the last 2-3 weeks, but one night he's not in here. He's been doing these lines. But he, 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 he I can't remember exactly what it was. It had something to do with Mark.
No, this is for creators, right?
Run the bathroom real quick.
I was just thinking of
I'm just gonna go
immersive.
immersive. So I mean, content creators, right? Instead of just videos, you could be creating immersive videos that get interaction. Viewers can imagine you're going to the jungle in Africa, right? And then you're recording this immersive video and actually with you and explore different things based on their own taste. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I can see the concept.
Yeah.
Should be pushed out for other pod purposes. I'm creating, I don't know, a game on an environment. Then said,
When? I thought I was.
Reason.
I guess it stopped. there. Showing up on the stream. Yeah, it's not. Are you seeing my screen share?
No, wonderful. Mugs.
The screen share is not working. It's not showing up on his stream. All right. Anyway.
Yeah. So where were you guys?
We were just looking over the notes that you provided us. I think we really covered everything.
Well, we didn't cover is virtual assets, really.
Well, we have. Sense.
But yeah, we did, didn't we? Like avatars and accessories, things of that nature. Yeah. Now, NFTs, which are non-functions.
Yeah, we went over that, yeah.
No, it's a cripple, actual, like a world blockchain, and it gives you the full kind of any single platform. So that means it's real ownership. But see, that comes back to the thing that I wanted to talk about too is like first, data privacy. That's really important. But then also when it comes to actually belongs.
Again, we sort of covered that with my light.
Well, and when you look at it, you have to look at it like this: as a virtual world.
You said it's off a new framework, so why is there a binary file?
That's a good question, actually. If it is, it's
an executable of some description.
Yeah. Well, it says that it's from yours. It's supposed to be decentralized, decentraland, I guess it is.
So you could take it offline and create your own.
Yeah. Well, you could take like how I mentioned the sandbox in Decentraland. Yeah, you can use it to host events and stuff and everything, and VR thing to do it on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just wondering how.
And then they say you can also resell it. You could literally like. This sounds kind of like something that I was doing with the VR chat, where you could like I was going to freaking Blender to create environment. And then they say you can put it on Unity, and then I would take it from Unity and put it on VR chat. Well, here I guess you can do the same concept, but then after you do that, the VR chat then after you do that, you can actually rent it out or resell it to somebody.
So you own the actual entire environment, you own the entire product.
Yeah.
Okay.
They say that it actually has value due to scarcity, utility, and creativity, or like social meaning, all that crap. like, and this also applies to avatars and the outfits you put onto them too. So that's basically it. No, yeah, I'm not really seeing much of anything else that would be. With this, what do you guys think? Do you think this is going to be a big issue when it comes to like data collection? Especially knowing how Facebook is.
Again, terms and conditions apply.
You know,
like anything.
And I do want to also point out too that they're doing that whole thing where they're watching people, making sure they behave appropriately. So over any of that, they will still freaking ban you if you say the inappropriate words or go against their terms and services and stuff.
Always read the terms.
You still there?
You agree? Yeah. Always agree to the contracts before you agree to. Always read the contracts before you agree to anything.
Yeah.
And that's a good life lesson for everything.
Now the thing too that gets me is like don't only just think about like freaking that in those terms, like especially when it comes to these advertisers. Freaking Facebook is a real advertisement whore. You know what I mean? They freaking sell themselves to advertisers like nothing. So that data is going to be collected and it's going to be shipped to advertisers. So when you're on there,
potentially depends on individual contracts. I mean, if you see a statement on the contract saying your information could be shared with third-party partners, then expect that data to be shared.
well, they're also talking about like Meta and similar companies can potentially gather far more granular and sensitive information than ever before, such as body movements, eye tracking, voice analysis, biometric data, facial expressions, and even neurological signals over time. So this goes back to the old days of DARPA, where they're using, well, everybody knows Facebook has been known for social experiments, so I don't see that as any kind of mystery. You know what I mean? That's actually something that they've practiced for quite a long time, to be honest.
Yeah, it just surprised me that people complain that the data is being misused. Well, they don't actually read and understand their own contracts.
Well, I mean, you don't want them to like be gathering stuff that, you know,
If you agree to it, then expect it.
manipulate behavior, predict choices, sell targeted ads, or even influence political or psychological outcomes. Yeah, that's some crazy shit, dude.
Again, agree to the you agree to the contract.
Rise of the machine, baby. Rise of the machine. The Terminator's gonna come in. He's gonna come. He's gonna take over, and that's all there is to it. You know what I mean?
Caveat emptor. Nobody's forced to use any service. You, as the user, agree to using said service.
Now, another thing to take a look at too is like virtual assets and NFTs. That's going to cause additional privacy risk because a lot of people, you know, like to think as of these things as like as anonymous, but they really aren't.
But yeah, it's like I think Nancy said earlier. There is still a ledger out there. On every single
Transaction.
cryptocurrency transaction. Yeah,
Yep. Every transaction is publicly visible. So
sure. Instead of having your name, there's a string of characters. You, you could argue it's been anonymous, but if you want to start publicizing this public key, then it's not. It doesn't take a rocket science to say, "Oh, this person's publicizing that public key." Therefore, let's have a look at what that public key is being used for.
well, see, this is actually they're better understood as the word pseudonymous, like pseudoscience, or it's actually pseudonymous. That's the term that's being used because, like, with every transaction that you do that's publicly visible, it makes over time creates patterns of ownership and behavior, and eventually that can be linked in like the real world uh, for like real world identities. Now you can, if you manage it well, then it wouldn't happen. But for the average person who doesn't really carefully manage all that, it can actually be linked back to you because of your ownership and behavior. Like whenever you go to buy NFTs and stuff like that. So those are things that you got to be careful with. So they link you to real world identities, and
Potentially.
and we've been talking about ransomware and all that good stuff in the beginning of the show. So just if anybody's listening, that blockchain, all I got to do is figure out what your blockchain is and what the what do they call it? It's the address.
Yeah, public address. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can track you, find out all the transactions that you've done with that, or in particular, or be able to pull up. Got you. Now that goes also. It's tied to your social profiles with your real names and your history of transactions, and that can be exposed to like corporations and governments or even malicious actors. So all of that opens. This is a whole different freaking world. Like everybody who's on YouTube who makes streams and they get views and stuff like that. This goes way beyond that. This is huge. So you're talking about a lot of information being freaking passed on. So it's definitely not the same. Just so people are underwear like that. This goes way beyond that.
Aware.
Now, also understand too that Meta's metaverse is currently centralized. It's not decentralized, and that's something that people should be aware of too. Mozilla, I believe, was freaking centralized as well. I'm not quite sure. And I'm really questioning a lot of these supposed metaverse um, platforms if they're actually decentralized like they claim to be, because this node system just seems to be like a completely different setup that's separate from what they're doing today. It's the same thing but different methods. You know what I mean? To me, that's what it seems like. I could be wrong, but
How many times have we come across claims, and I can think of one specific company, but how many times have we come across claims there's a platform is decentralized and then you find out that only a very minor portion of that platform is actually decentralized.
Yeah, they make claims that they're what they really aren't. That's something that you got to also be careful about. I agree. Now, privacy is something that also intersects with security. As more people interact and surveillance increases, um, if someone gains access to your metaverse profile, you might not just they might not just impersonate you. They might gain access to your virtual financial assets tied to NFTs or crypto wallets.
Well, presumably you've got security such as encryption keys, passwords, various other security processes to go through before you can access those entities.
Here you're doing to me about you're making assumptions.
Well, to log into a social media platform, you need at least a password and a username. Sure, the username may be easy to guess.
You're though. I mean, not well. We've had issues.
I was looking at it from a more of a social sort of concept, but
well, I mean, it is actually because like me and you, we got on Elements, and Elements is encrypted, and you always have to use a key to get into it. That is what most people who do open source usually want when they talk encryption. I find it annoying, to be honest, but I'll put up with it just for the sake of hanging out with you guys, But
we all know of the old social sort of scams. Phone calls being made by scammers asking you for your mother's maiden name. Sort of thing.
Now, you've already mentioned frickin' the GDPR, and you've already mentioned the CCPA. That really looks like the only things that anybody really talks about when it comes to this stuff. I don't really like to say any good things about California. It's like the cesspool.
Well, that is one of the very few things I've got to commend on.
It's like one of the cesspools of the world. I think the only thing worse than the cesspool of frickin' California, particularly Los Angeles, is Paris. Paris stinks, from what I've heard. They have to wear perfume to make the stink go off of them. But I'm gonna leave that alone because I'm bad mouthing California at the moment. I can only bad mouth one place at one time. At least I think that's all I can do. I'm not quite sure.
Okay. You are under contract. See, only bad mouth one.
Now, that mostly has to do with something else that we need to bring up too with these acts, these protection acts. That has to do mostly with data harvesting, immersive and real-time digital worlds and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Where they're going in and they're they're doing their data harvesting. They're just going in there and they're munching everything. So that's another thing we didn't discuss tonight either about data harvesting. So that's something I figured I should put out right there. I think you guys didn't talk about data harvesting, did you?
In what context?
Well, like harvesting a crop. They're going in and they're just harvesting up all the data they can get, but
again, if you agree to a contract that allows for that sort of, then you've agreed to a contract.
So you think it's okay to data harvest? Is that what you're saying?
Users agree to a contract.
You're just a horrible Englishman, dude. Like you just
Right. Again, cafe attempt or
Tan. What do you think about this? Are you there? He's there. It's just he's muted. I need his take on this. It's like you just.
I mean, if you go into Meta Inc. Meta platform platforms, and they said they can share the data between the platforms, or if you, let's say, you've got a Google account and you've agreed to having your, I don't know, Gmail emails being analysed, and your shopping habits being analysed, and your search results being analysed. You've agreed to that contract.
Well, the thing of it is like if you feel that you're being constantly watched or analyzed and monetized without consent.
But you have consented in this case.
Yeah, it could stifle creativity.
Well, yes, potentially, but in a lot of cases, users do agree to do consent.
Yeah, and the thing about it is too is like eventually people are just going to get tired of that platform and walk away from it. Hopefully, let's put our
People still are happy to put their the phone book, phone address book, and Canada on services such as Google or Apple's iCloud frameworks. People are more than happy to have the convenience of having their data.
Well, for me, since you're frozen up again, I'm just gonna say this. I find it kind of coincidental that they're coming out with these virtual worlds like this, and then like before we were talking about 5G and like the practical uses of 5G when it comes to like street lights and everything, and then we talked about like virtual cities or not virtual smart cities, which is two separate technologies. Don't get me wrong, but I find it kind of interesting that they're gathering data on these platforms and then they're making plans to create these smart cities. You know, I was
Actually, I don't think Apple or Google Meta platforms are creating smart cities.
I guarantee you they're getting the data for somebody, or they're using it. They're using it in their virtual worlds. One of the two, to where they can freaking test it out. You know what I mean? Because it really is odd how they're trying to really push like these freaking meters, the 5G meters with the internet. Some of them are actually actually called smart meters, which is really strange. But you know, I do find it odd that they're doing that, and they're wanting to do like with sewage and water departments. They're wanting to use freaking that kind of technology that way, and now it seems to be a big issue that they're really wanting to look.
Yeah, but remember, your electricity company is just an electricity company that's providing you the provisions of supplying you with electricity. They've got no interest in giving that data to a water supplier.
No, they're giving it to freaking Meta so they can run freaking tests with the data to see how freaking it works out.
Again,
Like
you agree.
patterns on stop signs to show when freaking you solve traffic issues with a congested area, things of that nature. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but they aren't giving Meta or Google, whoever, your own identity.
I would almost bet that this stuff is going on. To be honest,
Again, read the terms of service of read the contract of any of your providers.
do you really think Zuckerberg is going to put that kind of information in the terms of service?
I mean, Europe is a legal requirement. Yeah, you can share data if we've got no contractual obligation to share that data.
Okay, hold up. This is a good thing to bring up too, because you would probably know. How many times has Zuckerberg gone before the EU to testify that you know of?
Off the top of my head, a few times. If I do any research, I would be able to say, and I wouldn't be able to tell you for what reasons.
I
I'd have to.
bet you know. You just don't want to tell me.
I would have to. Well, I'm not walking encyclopedia. I would have to.
Don't you lie to me, dude. Don't you lie to me. You are a walking encyclopedia.
I would have to. Yeah.
Now, I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, I think we've actually covered the freaking we've covered the ownership stuff pretty well. Now, this whole thing about monopolization. Let me just go ahead and read this, and if you get a take, or if you want to do a take on it, you can. I don't know if Tan's still there or not, but he can do his comment, because this is one of the important ones that I think would be kind of cool to go through. It really is important, but it's a kind of a long read, so be patient with me.
Actually, hold your thoughts for 2 seconds. I'm just going to take a quick break myself.
Okay, you're gonna go use the bathroom.
Indeed.
Go to do the British luxury. No, Tan, he fell asleep at the computer again.
Okay, I will be a couple seconds.
Okay, I'll be right here. Yeah, I mean, it was my fault. I'm the one who ended up leaving early. So let me go through and get some feedback, see if anybody's said anything in the chats. Now, V said that he would have wanted to show up for one of the shows. I told him about tonight and then tomorrow on Untethered, and I don't know for sure which one he actually wanted to be on. But he did respond to me after I told him about today and tomorrow's stream, and he said that if I wanted to schedule him on a talk about NSA covert tech, to do it. He's sure that my partner would have a fun time. Now we could do something like that on Untethered, because I also have a part of that series that I'm talking about the whole thing. It rotates around the internet being a scam. So if you want to come on to Untethered and have that conversation, it's cool. It's like tonight I had to turn YouTube, because old Raph, he was a rebel man. Him and Nancy were rebels, Florida rebel. So that had to go real quick. And I know better with having V on YouTube too, because he's just awful. He got me in trouble too. So we'll do it on Untethered, which does not at all. You guys can come on.
What's that?
V said that he would be interested if having coming in and talking to us about NSA covert tech, and I said that would probably be more in line with untethered, more specifically for the one where we talk about the internet is a scam. So I think maybe that would be a good time to have them on and have a conversation about that. And plus we can do it without having to worry about YouTube and stuff.
I don't think I've ever spoken to V. I keep on seeing him on Skype stroke MS Teams, but making comments, but I don't think I've added to him.
Oh, V is a wild man, dude.
Right.
Freaking V is a wild man. I don't know what the whole status is with him and Angel and Naroki and stuff. I know that they're going through their rebellious stages and stuff, so they're like in the middle of a freaking war. I don't know what's going on there, but this happens like once every 6 months. So they you know how it is with PSEC, with Dave and all them. They're crazy.
I know they mentioned something about Dave trying to catch up on.
I don't know what's
editing or something earlier.
Yeah. So since you're here, Tan, this is the one I do want to cover. If you want to have a conversation about it, let you at least hear it. Let me actually come back on and
You were saying for 2 seconds. And
he said he's still having Mike, but let me go ahead and read this. Hopefully he can get that resolved. But here it is. Monopolization in the context of digital ownership, virtual worlds, and the metaverse is an issue of increasing concern as the power of large tech companies continue to grow. Monopolization occurs when a single entity or a small group of entities gain control over a significant portion of compensation. In the virtual space, monopolization can manifest in several ways, especially as platforms like Meta, formerly Facebook, and other users are dependent on the company for access vital spaces service. There it is. I can hear him now. Yeah.
I've got that already.
Now let me finish here.
Okay. Carry on. I'm come back to you.
On the primary risks of monopolization in the metaverse is that a single company could gain control over all or most of the digital infrastructure, limiting user freedom and competition. For instance, if a dominant player controls the virtual reality hardware, the software ecosystem, and the virtual goods, users might have no alternative but to participate within that ecosystem. Effectively create a walled garden where users are locked into a platform that controls their digital experience, ownership rights, and even the content they can access or create. This level of control can have far-reaching implications for both consumers and creators. The dominance of large platforms also raises concerns about data privacy and surveillance. Companies with monopolists collect vast amounts of personal data across various services, potentially exploiting this information for profit without adequate transparency or user consent. This level of control can create an environment where users have limited agency over their data and may face significant risks if their information is used for targeted manipulation, advertising, or other purposes that are not in their best interest. Another aspect of monopolization is in the metaverse is the potential for market manipulation and price control. If a single company controls the creation and sale of assets, they can set prices artificially high, control the supply of goods, and restrict access to certain virtual environments or experiences. This would undermine the idea of free and open marketplace where users can freely trade, create, and sell virtual goods. In addition to limiting user freedom, monopolization could stifle innovation within the virtual space. If one company has a near complete hold on the metaverse, it can suppress new ideas, technologies, or platforms that compete with its products. Smaller developers, creators, and entrepreneurs may find it difficult to enter the market as they would have to compete against a dominant player with vastly more resources. This could lead to a lack of diversity in digital experiences as only the idea and projects of the dominant company would have the funding and support to thrive. Furthermore, monopolization in the context of blockchain and decentralized assets is a paradox that needs to be carefully examined. The promise of decentralized platforms and NFTs is to create a system where users can truly own their assets, independent of large corporations. However, in practice, we see some major companies attempting to consolidate power in the blockchain space. For instance, large platforms or corporations may create their own proprietary NFT marketplace or virtual worlds that limit the use of transferability of assets across different platforms. In such cases, the decentralization promised by blockchain can be undermined by companies that have the power to impose their own rules, thereby creating monopolist dynamics within a supposed open and decentralized environment. Regulatory bodies will eventually need to intervene to address monopolistic practices in the metaverse and digital asset space. Governments and lawmakers will likely have to create new laws and regulations to ensure that the digital economy remains open and competitive, encouraging innovation and protecting users' rights. This might involve enforcing antitrust laws, breaking up monopolistic conglomerates, and creating fair frameworks for digital ownership, asset creation, and data usage. So I'm going to stop it there because
Where are you reading from, Matthew?
this is the notes that I pulled together on this whole thing with monopolization when it comes to, well, actually, from a lot of this has to do with just more than Meta and their VR.
Yeah, I was going to say you have 3 minutes in the concept of the virtual environment, but this could be expanded upon for other products as well.
Well, it's talking about the metaverse.
The situation in the ecosystem where you buy an Apple device and then you are restricted to the what Apple approves on their Play Store, on their package management store, and applications, so services that Apple approves of.
All right. Well, when you look at like what I do about with YouTube and all of these platforms with streaming, and they've basically done
And
the same thing. Like they've got
I disagree. I do.
they're
In
close.
the social media ecosystem, there's many forms, over the last 20 odd years. We've seen a significant increase in platforms. Come across, I've not come across any platform that has a sort of what's the word I'm looking for? You can only distribute via their platform. One of those clauses. Can't think of the word.
I can't read your mind. I'm sorry.
Sort of anti-competitive platform, anti-competitive, terms of service.
Competitor, anti-competition.
There's a better word for this, this as a point, this stream is going out on how many different platforms?
Right, exactly. But okay, behind the scenes, okay. The truth is freaking when we put this out on the streams with big uh, platforms like YouTube and X and Instagram. Instagram doesn't do videos. That is an example. If you're doing like a pick or something, okay. The amount of people that they have on their platform is insane. Like the competition with people who are creating content is just insane as it is. You know what I mean? And these people have a monopoly over it because of the size of the platform and the amount of people.
But they haven't got a monopoly because you can diverse into multiple different platforms. I mean, I always use the bums on seats argument from you. I love using that term.
Also applies to Minds too, though. Look at the competition Minds has to go up against, or freaking Rumble. I mean, look at the competition. How can you compete? Which they're doing a good job. Don't get me wrong. I think they really are doing a good job at competing with them. But I guarantee you, it's hard because freaking you have YouTube, you have X, formerly Twitch. You got all of these huge freaking platforms that are, way, way bigger. So, I mean, that's my take on it.
And I know mine's losing its niche now because of the changes since Donald Trump became president in relation to free speech and various things. But at one point, before that, mine's had the niche of being the free speech platform.
All right.
All right, let me, my turn to read something. Just before I do that, Roger's point, when you were reading this thing about um, metaverse, about some vendor potentially locking in and having exclusive right to the user, this is the old problem with the operating systems, where at some point Microsoft Windows was becoming too popular. They had to be um, they had to be or the Microsoft operating system and the Microsoft Internet Explorers were becoming
the old browser wars of the mid-90s, sure.
Yeah, they have to be split up to avoid antitrust issues or anti-competition issues. So with the metaverse or mixed reality gaming platform, I don't think it has gotten to that point of popularity to be able to be of a concern. But at some point, eventually, they're going to reach there, and then we'll run into the similar kind of issues that Microsoft.
I mean,
with
the recent judgment, the judgment within the last couple.
He's fading out again. He keeps moving too much. Like
The judgments in relation to Google, which I've yet to review.
the Stadia thing, you mean?
yeah, and just so we can point it out too, because I love doing this. That is going to be on again with Untethered tomorrow, where we get rowdy. Okay, you think we talk like tonight was cool, okay, because we had Nancy and Raph in here, and they were talking about freaking breaking into safes and shit.
Right. So all right. So back to this article I found.
Okay.
On
getting rowdy.
Who's that?
That was Mr. Robot.
Oh, hey, Robot. Glad you can join us. Maybe we'll stream
My home.
3 more hours now. Jeez.
No.
All right. So, all right, just to catch you up, Mr. Robot, we're talking about. We started out talking about crypto and all the hacking stuff that Raph and his cohort, what's his name, Nancy, was talking about, and then about potentially hacking government sites and stuff like that. That I thought if you had joined earlier, you would totally fit into that conversation.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, sorry, man. I got into some coding and I just forgot.
But then we moved on to talking about Meta, the Meta Inc. and its mixed reality goggles, and in general the term metaverse. And up until now, we thought that this metaverse thing was an invention of Meta, the Facebook company, right? But
no, they're just hacking it.
Yeah, I found this thing, which is like a general definition of what a metaverse is, and it's more than just just what that their Facebook is trying to.
Have you ever used those goggles?
I haven't. The VR, the Oculus Quest.
Yeah.
No, I know somebody who does, and they really enjoy it.
Kind of sucks that they sold out to Facebook, but I used it, and it literally does trick your body into thinking that something's going on. You know, like there's one where you like walk off the edge of a building. Like you're on that scene in The Matrix where he has to jump off the building.
Yeah.
Like there's that kind of thing, and your heart literally.
If you
starts
actually jump inside the game, what are you jumping into? Your couch or?
Well, you're just on the floor, right? So you're just actually on like a flat surface, but in the virtual reality, it looks like you're on top of a building looking down. So your body gets tricked into thinking you're actually going to die. So yeah, it's really interesting.
So is your feet and everything like waving around and everything like and shit in the real world, or do you have to actually move and stuff?
There's another one where you're like in a Jurassic Park theme ride where you're going like on the movie, you know, where they're in the cars. There's one like that, and there's like dinosaurs coming out. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'd have to videotape you with the goggles on while you're doing it and let everybody see how ridiculous you look.
You can videotape.
In the virtual world, they look cool.
Yeah, you know? In the virtual world, you can do it. We won't let you do it for real. Anyway, what is metaverse? Okay, metaverse. The metaverse is the concept of an online 3D universe that consists of multiple virtual spaces. It often referred to as the next internet. The metaverse ecosystem will allow its user to work together, conduct meetings, or plan group outing, play games, and socialize together in these curated 3D spaces. Okay. Right. So essentially, that's what it is. And it involves virtual reality and a new thing called next thing is augmented reality. AR. And then the latest thing is it's just basically a rebranding of virtual reality technology. It's now referred to as mixed reality. Uh, and I brought this up so that because Roger started reading about interoperability, and this
How is
thing,
mixed reality different from augmented reality? Isn't that the same thing?
how is it? Yeah, okay, go back here. Use only requires smart device with a camera and screen to be able to experience AR. It augments user experience and the physical world through digital device, commonly used with a smartphone, which can be web-based on a desktop as well. Augmented reality can superimpose a 3D image within the screen of a smartphone so that it appears that the object is in the same physical space as the user. For example, the game Pokemon Go. You guys know about that one, right? Where
Yeah.
you download the game on your phone and you walk like zombies around town looking
Yeah,
for treasure. Yeah, yeah.
but it says the same thing in mixed reality. It says bringing
Uh,
holographic concepts into the living room. You know.
yeah, well, so that's I guess it's augmented reality is the primarily with smartphones. I guess.
Does anybody remember? Do anybody here remember 3D TV? That concept.
Yeah, I
Still?
saw that at the airport
Yeah.
once in Singapore, and
Did-
man, it
And
was
look
awesome.
how poorly. Does anybody here remember how poorly it was received?
Right. Well,
As far
I
as
mean, the
consumer
technology
goods.
It was like you didn't have to have glasses on, and it was like full 3D. I don't know why they didn't take off. It was amazing.
Because the consumers didn't want it. Who wants
It's
these?
too
wasn't
unwieldy, I guess. It's too cumbersome.
In the living room wearing augmented glasses all day.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, see, that goes back to what I was talking about with Minds Gaming and them when they had the dude, Where's My Wallet? They were doing it out of freaking Mozilla freaking hubs. And just out of nowhere, freaking Mozilla hubs said, we're shutting down. We can't, we're done with it. They weren't getting the support that they were hoping to get. So there really isn't any. They're not getting the response that they thought they would from all this.
By the way, Mark, the one I saw, you didn't have to wear glasses.
Huh?
It was full 3D,
We're
no
done
glasses.
with it. They
It
just
was unreal.
they weren't getting
It
the
was
support
really
that they
good.
were hoping.
The full 3D what? It was a physical
So
object.
basically,
What?
you're inside a room
Yeah,
with
like,
screens
I'd
all
pop
around
out of the screen
wall,
and shit.
right?
Okay. I was thinking you some sort of
like
magically
Star Trek's,
get a physical object to appear in front of you.
Some Asian tech man had never
We've got that
come to the West.
technology.
I only
yes.
ever saw it in Singapore, nowhere else.
But yeah, that product, that's major products. There wasn't a big consumer uptake. It's okay to have all these ideas. It's okay to create products if the consumers do not want them. I mean, look at Google Glasses as an example. Even though I argue that was marketed to the wrong people, but another product that was marketed to the consumer, and the consumer didn't want it.
Well, sometimes it's just it doesn't even get marketed in the West, you know? So much cool tech just stays in Asia and we never like really get it. Yeah. Or maybe we get it like 10 years later or something.
I watch I've got a subscription to a YouTube channel called Technomoan, who actually reviews and looks at the history of various audio devices. So looks at old hi-fis and old tape recorders and old audio mediums, and he does a lot of reviews on old audio devices that were sold only in Japan.
Well, that was the problem. Like a lot for me personally, back in the 70s, the best freaking And to this day, they'll stand up if you can find them. As those old consoles, the Pioneers that had the huge woofers in the freaking side of them. Now, if you find one of them things, you take that woofer out and you put it in a box, man, and you hook it up, and it's gonna thump, dude. To this day, I guarantee you. You know, and Japan just couldn't compete when it came to audio. They did their best, but freaking Pioneer had them whooped.
They produced a lot of interesting products back in the 70s, 80s, and up to the mid-90s.
They
And
just couldn't compete with
again,
Pioneer and stuff. I mean, American audio was really where it was at back in the 70s and the 80s, believe it or not. It
Do
really
you
was.
guys remember the TV show Beyond 2000?
I don't watch TV, so
Wait,
It
you're
was
talking
on
about
like the Sci-Fi Channel back in the day, and they were like selling us this bill of goods that like technology is just gonna keep skyrocketing. It's gonna get so good. You're gonna have hoverboards and shit. Where's my hoverboard? I'd
yeah,
never
I'm
received
still
my hoverboard. I'm
waiting
still
for
saving up
hovercar.
for it.
well,
I'm
I
still
told
waiting for the Jetsons hovercar.
I've already told you the issue. If Steve Jobs was still alive, we would already have X-ray glasses.
Yeah.
It's just point blank.
Yeah, but why? What would be the
Just want free boobies.
consumer usage?
Oh, you know what the consumer usage would be.
Apart from the porn industry.
Yeah, I mean,
Apart from the porn industry.
I'm just saying, dude. You know,
Women that start walking around in tinfoil suits and shit.
when they be wearing glasses too, don't be fooled by that shit. Like, this is a modern, update, hip world, man, where women are just as equal as men. Okay, so trust me, women will be wearing those X-ray glasses just.
That's true. That's true too.
Okay.
Probably more so.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to cover my. I'm going to go out and buy a silver foil aluminium suit.
So,
If there's any
One of these
hit
websites,
me up on minds.com.
there apparently is an effort to have these mixed reality technologies interrupt with each other, like with all these events coming out.
Again, I don't know. We're talking about protocols. We're talking about standardization.
Yeah.
Um,
There's what was that thing that I just saw? Like World Economic Forum interoperability initiative. I was just looking
yeah,
to
see
who
that.
leaders.
That was what I was talking about with the opera thing. That, and I thought about it after I brought it up last week. Like, I really thought that I would have been into it, to where later on I would get into that and have a conversation. But then, like last week when I brought it up, I was like, hold on, dude, freaking. It doesn't really contribute to the conversation. You know what I mean? It's like, and plus, I only watched like 2 videos of it, and I've never gone back to it and actually checked it out. You know,
sorry, what product?
the freaking virtual opera that we were just talking about before Tank.
Okay. I actually seen some. I can't remember what company is doing it, but there is a company that's creating designer glasses with augmented reality.
Talking
with a
about
screen
before
on
Tank.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
So these are the companies working towards
a product
benefits
a couple
interactive.
months ago.
Now, the one thing, man, that I guess we should run by Mr. Robot, since he's late for the show again. Not trying to call anybody out, but what is your take?
Fashionably late.
What is your take on monopolization when it comes to this, and actually all platforms when it comes to content and digital ownership?
Super dangerous, I think. There seems to be a push to sort of centralize social media, and now in some countries they're passing laws to like make it so that you have to give your ID just to go on social media, and it's being styled as like, oh, it's protecting kids, but really it's creating a system where everyone gets tracked and monitored and potentially censored and so on. That's why I really support projects like Noster and open source social media like Element, and so that we can sort of keep it free in the hands of the people rather than in these huge international conglomerates.
I don't
That's my
know,
take.
Elements is still controlled and produced by New Vector Limited.
Oh,
Not
he's
it's still
Open source,
owned by a
and you can
single
host your
company.
own server. That's a good start. If you can
Yeah,
have it open source and
yeah,
self-hosted, that's good.
but it's just because you can host your own server doesn't mean that you can front the law.
What?
If let's say it's determined that every single communication platform needs to use a some sort of singular digital identification framework. It doesn't matter if it's open source, self-hosted, proprietary, whatever.
Well, that's right.
It's
That's
law
why.
state.
That's why we need projects that don't enforce ID with sign up. No phone numbers, no Google emails, nothing like that. If you can sign up with a temporary email and just be anonymous, that's the best way to be. Animals act differently in the wild if they know they're being watched. We know that. And we want to be able to have free and open conversations without the fear of government getting in the way.
First of all, Google Alphabet is a private sector company, not a governmental body. But you,
in bias,
I
they're one of the biggest donors to the Democratic Party.
That's by.
Mr. Robot, you got Mark and Willie.
I have my own email server, which I control myself, which I maintain myself. But just because I've got my own email server doesn't mean that the person that is sending me or receiving emails to me has the same situation.
Hold up, dude.
Well, that's why we need privacy by default in like chat applications and stuff like that.
AdSense is a good example of this when it comes to emails. Okay, AdSense has it to where they can detect if you even open an email that was sent to you. So I can set up a freaking AdSense freaking program to freaking monitor the emails I send out, and if you open it, AdSense will tell me they received this, they looked at it, and they opened it. So that gives you enough information to know that you can send them another email later on because they're stupid enough to open the first one.
That's not necessarily the case because that is reliant on an attachment or a inline attachment or an image, let's say, is being viewed.
The moment I open their email, it gives them that information. It's in the analytics.
Because there's an inline attachment that is externally provided.
But you said that you said
so. If you've got email clients that doesn't automatically open the inline attachment, then I mean I use KDE's Kmail application, and that gives me the choice of not displaying any inline attachments as soon as I open up an email.
See, that's all I need. That's all I need.
No one really uses email for private conversations anymore. I mean, not even government officials. Look at the Hillary emails got leaked.
Clients,
Podesta emails. It just keeps getting compromised, and plus it's all being monitored. So if you want private conversations, you need end-to-end encrypted.
Mr. Robot, let me just put it out there. I would more likely have to talk to me about through email than anywhere else, to be honest.
I still to clients agencies and stuff through email, but their server is,
I mean,
it's not going on a.
That's the only thing I use, not private conversation.
What?
I said it, dude.
Wherever you do your email, yeah.
Well, I was speaking for Mr. Robot. I wasn't speaking for myself.
No, I'm out of the porn scene.
He didn't even distinguish between gay porn and porn. He said, "I'm out of the porn scene, guys."
But also,
Pay me enough anymore.
it's okay to have all these secure protocols, but if there was industry standards such as IMAP and POP3, then they're industry standards. And therefore, you're expected to use those industry standards.
I think we should explain my freaking internet is a scam, because this is the stuff that needs to be discussed. You seem to think that it is okay for this kind of base, okay?
Well, yeah.
That's exactly why the US ran away from England and went and started their own country, is because the English, even though they don't like the laws, they will follow them. Whereas the Americans, they'll just go and create their own thing.
So we create URLs.
So you want to break laws now? So you actively break laws? What, you go down the shop mugging old ladies and stealing goods?
We created these URLs that freaking you have to use according to these rules that are set down by the World Wide Web, okay? Every single one of those URLs is traceable. Every single one of them, okay? Now everybody just took that in and said, "Oh, it's so cool," and they didn't even care one bit that freaking they're able to be tracked because of the URL address that they have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but nobody seems to think that that's a problem. Now all of a sudden we have this freaking security issues that we have to take care of, and everybody's like, "Oh, how did this happen?" Well, it happened because you allowed them to get away with this crap.
But you, as the consumer, agree to contract. You agree to contract with your ISP. If you're using a search engine such as Google, you agree to their contract.
What happens?
The consumer
what happens if you disagree, man?
Or you don't use them. You don't use the product.
Isn't that monopolizing a product? That's monopolization, isn't it?
If you don't, or you find a alternative product that will give you what you are looking for.
Well, what's alternatives to?
I agree with that.
What's an alternative to using a URL?
Well, I mean, alternative products such as internet service providers. There's plenty of internet service providers out there. There's plenty. Multiple search engines
down
out
to
there.
the grocery store.
You don't have to use Google. You don't have to use your preferred or your only ISP.
This always comes down to your final solution. Make a freaking flyer, or go down to the grocery store and put it up on the billboard. That's always what you end up saying, dude.
Well, there's other
well,
Web3.
There's if you want people to find you. If you want people to find you or find your site, then you've got to advertise that site somehow.
You still need a URL, so that means.
Yeah, but remember, URLs are encrypted, so you can see what someone is.
The URLs themselves are not encrypted. It's the
communication is TLS, right?
Yeah.
SSL. So if you have HTTPS, they can see what you're accessing, but they can't see what you're sending or receiving necessarily. But other than that, there's a movement towards Web3 and towards in Web3, the actual headers are also encrypted, whereas with normal HTML, it's not. And then there's also different types of onion routing. There's overlay networks that are encrypted. There's Tor, so there's a bunch of different options. The thing is, not many people are using it because they're not concerned about privacy that much.
Well, Mark Edworthy is. He's the one that got
Oh,
me.
I'm not that concerned about having somebody know what, or having my ISP know what URLs I'm typing.
Okay, you and Tan, okay, are the only ones that freaking convinced me that the Matrix was good to use elements. Okay, that was it. No,
Yeah.
I think Mr.
Remember, if you're working for people like myself and Minds Gaming and the NCLSI group, Minds would have never used elements in the first place.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, come
When
on.
they stopped using it a couple of months ago.
And I
But
can't
for
even
people like myself
I
and
can't leave
Minds
Mr. Robot out of it either. He's like a big elements fanatic, dude. Everything rotates around elements.
Why are we stuck with elements? Like, why don't we use like?
I like Element. I just would like to move towards my own hosted server and, for private channels to keep them encrypted because it doesn't have encryption by default. So you have that option now, which is
not
good.
be on infrastructure then.
Okay,
Again, anybody with any technical know-how can, or with the ability, can spin up their own infrastructure.
100%.
Okay.
I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I will.
Okay, now I gotta ask you guys about freaking Session. Have you guys tried that?
Session?
Yeah, Sessions to
Yeah,
VoIP.
Session is great. I use it. It was developed by a bunch of Australian guys from Melbourne, I believe. And they use their own implementation of like type of onion routing to keep IP addresses private. You don't need any. You don't even need a username to sign up. It generates a key. It's really interesting app.
Good.
It's very easy to use too.
How
And you
is
get a
it-
desktop application for it as well.
How does it compare to Signal or Element?
It works exactly the same as Signal, and the user interface isn't as like gamey as Element. So it's more acts like a Signal, I'd say. But it's a bit more secure than Signal, or a bit more private than Signal, because you don't need a phone number to sign up. That kind of thing.
Now, we have
It also handles metadata better. Okay? But it's a bit more secure than Signal, or a bit more
had me do her story
because you don't need a phone number to sign up. That kind of
storyteller, and it looked interesting that time, but then I never got done using it, or I never used it again. And then I finally downloaded it again here recently.
If anyone's interested, you can get it on a website called getsession.org. You can download it there. It's a phone app and a desktop app. Okay. Yeah. If anyone gets on it, let me know. I will sync up with you.
Well, I'm on there, so I can do that for you after we're done with the show. If you want to do that,
sweet.
And maybe we can freaking set some cool stuff up on there, because I know from what I've seen of it, it's actually a pretty good app. I don't know for sure 100% on it, but
Is it lightweight? It looks pretty lightweight.
Yeah, it's pretty lightweight, eh?
And
it's a bit tricky to find like big chat groups and stuff on there, because you kind of have to know someone that's in it already to get on there. There's not like a directory or anything like that. I have found some in the past though, like big tech groups and stuff like that.
So yeah, that'd be cool. Now I'm pretty sure we covered enough on the hybrid entertainment last week. So you guys don't want to go over that, do you? That's more of just having fun and talking about cool movies and stuff. So
again,
one more thing I just want to say, like with the chat apps, encrypted chat apps. I recommend staying away from the more recent one called Simple X, just because of the seed funding they received is from like the top globalists in the world, including Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and Bill Gates. It was a venture capitalist firm called Global Village that originally funded them, and to me, that's just suspicious on its face. So I would stay away from that.
I'm glad you brought that up. What are your thoughts on WhatsApp?
WhatsApp copied Signal's code. They forked it and basically made it proprietary. And, as per usual, just added their own backdoors in there and stuff, and then made it easy to access to the public and basically kind of force the public into it. It's a terrible idea. It's no better than by forcing, I mean like they made it, like incentivized it, I should say. Like it's installed on a lot of phones. Facebook kind of promotes it, and they're like promoted it as a secure chat application. Yet you can't look at the source code, even though it was originally open source. It's just bull crap, regular Zuckerberg stuff. So anyway, that's what I have to say.
Again, I'd be very careful about using the term force. Nobody is forcing anybody to use any platform.
It's very popular.
Facebook has forced people to use various things over time. Like they made it almost impossible to use the web application at one point, so that people would download the apps and stuff. And, they have done stuff like that. They're sneaky bastards.
Okay, what was you saying, Dan?
You're saying it's very popular in Central America.
Central America, yeah. And I did run information on what was it? Not Binance, but Solana. It's actually out of Switzerland, and it's a Switzerland coin. And the reason why within the vacuum probably had issues with me using that one is because it does have a Latin coin, and it comes out of Chile. So he was always talking crap about me using Solana.
Solana is the fastest crypto on the planet right now, as far as I know.
Yeah, it is. And that's what I was saying earlier. Is people were terrified of it. Like
What about XRP there? Like using
XRP is the same freaking group that
XRP is it's good technology.
Funny you mentioned that we would
Rap and Nancy were talking about it.
I remember looking into XRP when it came out, and it was developed by some bankers. And then as soon as it was released, all of the major countries in the world bought like crazy amounts of it for like pennies, like not even pennies, like 0.00001 of a penny, So when it's gonna get big and they push it, they'll be like mega rich for nothing,
Right.
So I don't want to support it just for that fact.
It's still pretty low right now.
Say, Mr. Wolf, what do you mean for nothing? They bought something and then they got mega rich for nothing.
For nothing.
For virtually nothing, yeah.
Yeah, they bought it for like 1 cent a coin, and then
yeah,
not even a cent.
So when they implement it on, say, like their Visa cards or something like that, it might go to $20, and it gives them like 100,000x of what they invested.
You wait until that big day.
Of market, though. You buy something cheap, you sell it at a higher price. That's the point of capitalism.
It started out at 22 cents a coin. So
point is, the international bankers have caused most of the wars, most of the problems on the planet. Do we really want to support platforms that enrich them even further? I say no. But feel free to do as you want. It's not financial advice.
See, this is why Nancy would love you to death, dude. Freaking she should have known better than to leave early because she didn't get to meet the Mr. Amazing Mr. Robot.
Yeah.
But it's okay. She got to meet Cam.
Next time she's here, I'll come in.
She got to meet Cam, though. That's cool. Like he's our token Asian dude. We get all the views because freaking Tan's on here.
All
Like,
views.
dude, we get like all. You would not believe every time you come on the shows. Like I get freaking Asian subscribers on X, like you wouldn't believe, just left and right. They do. They love it.
So
That's cool.
And you can't tell me that that's not coincidental, or that's
Japan's
coincidental.
big in Japan.
Yeah. And High Tran, the Oriental man from Canada.
That's right.
I think that's the big catcher, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
from Canada. It's like,
Yeah, they wouldn't care a Vietnamese man from Vietnam, but
yeah. But when it's Canada, they're all, especially Japanese girls, dude. Like they're all like, "Whoa, dude, he's from Canada."
So what's going to be the topic on Untethered next? That's tomorrow, right?
Untethered is going well. Do you guys think I should give a plug to it?
Yeah, do it.
No, I'm asking those guys. I know you'd be cool with it. You're just a troublemaker. You're a rebel. You guys didn't say something on what we're gonna be
I
going
mean, I
on?
think we're wrapping up this stream anyway, so it's good to
Yeah.
just
So tomorrow, the topics for Untethered, which is not going to be on Working with Audio and Video. It's going to be on the Praetorian. It is going to be over the Webb telescope, how it detected possible signatures of life on a distant
I disagree with that point of view already. They pointed out
you
the
can
other day.
argue with
They detected the possible conditions for.
You're
possible
arguing.
life.
You're arguing with a website, dude. No,
You don't know.
Yeah, I disagree with the headline.
Respectfully.
That's over
Okay, now. Okay, now.
We're gonna totally blow Mark's mind tomorrow, guys. So tune in. It's on Rumble.
Right into the next tomorrow's stream right now. So
We've got the judge on tech monopoly, which we're going to be discussing, and that's going to be both concerning Google and Mark Zuckerberg. Then after that, we are going to talk about drone swarms destroyed by British weapon. Now, I'm debating on the Pope stuff. Should we do it first and then do like the freaking life on a distant planet last, so that we can like,
much.
because I mean, see, like when we start talking about the Pope, I know that's going to cause you guys a lot of issues. Like,
I don't know. I'm interested in talking about the Pope, but I don't know if he's.
oh yeah, you do. You've been around these guys just as long as I have, and it's gonna get all hairy up in there.
I reckon let's talk about the tech stuff first, because we might lose some viewers after we talk about the Pope. So let's do that at the end.
Well,
I mean, it's the Pope is current event. Even like Jaffe was talking about the Pope.
yeah. Well, we're not gonna go that route. Jaffe's a little too hardcore.
Yeah.
We're just gonna.
I didn't hear the stream. I still haven't reviewed the stream. So what reach did it go?
Well, he. Well, I don't want to talk about all that on.
I think I'm regretting my question already.
It's bad enough that freaking.
I can find it.
It's bad enough that Raph and Nancy came on and wanted to crucify me. I don't want to.
Oh, please.
They said, "You horrible devil worshiper, you! I'm gonna burn you at the stake, you SOB."
You did do a show on Moloch, so
Yeah. Well, that didn't help. You know what I mean? It's like that didn't help at all.
Yeah, that's his point.
Like,
that's funny.
You socialist bastard. I'm like, oh my god, dude! I just sat here and I took it like that. Like,
I think you have a pretty neutral stance. It's good.
yeah. Well, just so you guys know, Nancy is a safecracker apparently, and she had to step away so she could help her daughter break a safe.
That's cool.
Like,
I can think lots
yeah,
of
anyone.
She, she's she's up.
She cracks code and she cracks safe.
Right. That's
There's
why
a really cool project that works by like, there's two different ones. One listens for the clicks inside the safe, and the other one like tests the pressure on the keypad if it's like a keypad on it, and buttons that get used more are just by like the tiniest little amount. So it can test which buttons are in the combination, and then just brute it.
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel. I'm subscribed to. It's a channel called Locksmith Lawyer or something, and he reviews the security flaws in a lot of commercially available locks, and most of it is just really key picks, key locks.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of these locks safes, they may have number or biometric mechanisms, but they always have a key lock as a sort of secondary mechanism.
now if you ever get a chance to come on with us with Nancy on, man, you're gonna love her to death, Mr. Robot. So if you have a chance, you hear her on any streams.
She's teaching her daughter how to crack safes. I already love her to death.
Yeah, she's into cybersecurity too, and she's actually got a background in tech too. So
All right, stop. That's awesome.
Yeah.
then Raph was on here too. He's a detective. He's a former what was it? What do they call that? Immigration officer. He's also been on. He's been involved with Homeland Security and stuff of that nature. So it's pretty cool with him. And just so they know if they are watching or if they watch this later on, dude, you guys freaking might have got mad at me. But trust me, I love you to death. There is nothing that you could really upset me unless you like really like did something harmful to me. You know?
Even if you had to.
Well, that was horrible. I was like, God, man, I have to do it again. Who used to get me in trouble? Raph gets me in trouble. V got me in trouble. And the weird part about it is all of them were on tonight. Like even V is in freaking chat on freaking on Skype talking shit to me. Him and Abe. Okay. As we speak. Well, you know, so it's been an interesting night.
I was just going to say, talking about on Skype and you getting in trouble. I noticed Angel's been making a few comments on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming on Skype instead of coming on your stream.
Well, see, he's jealous. He wants to be like me. Like he competes with me all the time. Angel does. Like, so one day he'll be able to compete with the old Raj man. Oh, infamous OG 1973, yo, what's up?
All right, boys. Well, I might have to cruise. It's
All
been
right.
left.
We're actually
so.
we're actually getting ready to wrap up. I think we ran out of stuff to talk about.
Much love, guys. See you,
All
crowd.
right.
Peace.
All right.
See you, crap.
You want to take us out, Tan, or you want me to do it?
I do the intro, you do the outro.
Okay. One of these days we'll get Mark to do it when he can speak proper English.
Yeah, but I'm not even going to comment. I am not going to comment. I'm not going to debate.
He quotes Oxford Dictionary to me today, but he can't freaking do the introduction. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, dude. Of course it's bad.
I leave that to the professionals.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so with that, I want to thank you guys for being here. I did do my best to give a plug for Rap and Nancy Planetta. You can check Nancy's show out at Dragus Production on Wednesday nights. I believe it's 7 p.m. Central Standard Time and 8 p.m. or no, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern or something at
2
Dragus
a.m.
Production.
In British time.
Okay, so that would be 9 a.m. for me, I guess.
And that can be found on Rumble, Odyssey, D-Live, and YouTube.
Do they do apps?
No, they do post on X, but they do not do live streams on X. They do Rumble, they do Kick, they do D-Live.
Do they have Spotify too?
They do terrestrial radio, so they could be on Spotify as well. So you can find them all on there under Dragus Production, DREAGUS, and then Productions. If you go by there and you subscribe to any of their websites, tell them that Roger Hansen sent you and that Roger deserves $50 for his referral, and you will be given money from a very, very prestigious member of the radio community.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Just tell them that Roger sent you guys. So, with that being said, you do want to tell everybody how they can find you and what your name is? Start with Mark.
I forgot my
Okay.
name.
You mentioned this at the start of the thing, but yeah. The most simplest thing is I'm on minds.com. At minds.com/medworthy.
All right. How about you, Tan?
No, I don't have anything.
You go by T1 on Minds.
It's too late.
TH2
Tran.
TH2 Tran on Minds.
Yeah, TH2 Tran. Yeah.
You can find me at Roger_Hansen on minds.com and Roger_Hansen on X at ROGLOL1973. I'm also on Teams, soon to be Teams, but on Skype as well as Discord. You can find me there for Wonderful World of Weirdness, live with Roger Hansen and all this other good stuff. So if you did like the stream, please like, subscribe, share, make comments, because we really do need comments. Tan's getting really frustrated. He doesn't not like being alone when it comes.
I'm getting frustrated. I have half a mind to boost every of Roger's posts just to get.
Well, that would be great. I appreciate that. Thank you. And with that, we are going to end the show. I hope you guys enjoy your night or morning or afternoon or whatever it is. And with that, I will say good night.
Good night, all, and to all a sweet dream.